And Jen and I are gonna go over the seller interview with you. So let me share my screen. You guys back over here where you belong. Come on. I work on 2 screens. Does everybody see the seller interview? Great, thank you. I saw Doris nodding. Thank you, Doris. I appreciate that. So the seller interview. So this is going to be in your ebook, pages 38, 39, and 40. There'll be some homework for you to check. How many of you are working in your ebooks? I see some of these. Guys, these assignments will help you get busy. What we want you to do is have business in your first 30 to 60 days, because we know that realtors who do are more likely to stay and stay in the business and be productive. So objectives, we want to teach you about how to build rapport and learn about the property that you're going to be selling or buying. Determine seller motivation and urgency, and learn from past seller experiences, uncover expectations of the seller, and help you prepare for and present the listing appointment. We are going to have Kyle Steele from Central New York after this, and he's going to do preparing for the listing presentation, which will be great. So Jen, you want to go over the 5 components of the listing presentation?
Sure, yeah, I'm following along on my screen here. So seller interview, and you know, in this market that we're in right now, it is so crazy. Listings are everything. There's not enough listings on the market. So any opportunity that anybody can have to have rapport with somebody who is either considering selling their house or is interviewing 3, 5 agents because they've decided to list their house. This is the biggest piece. You're really selling yourself. And then the property tour, because if anybody's watched that show Hoarders, you know that sometimes, most oftentimes, hoarder homes can be beautiful on the outside and neat and tidy. And it's when you cross the threshold that you realize. So just because you drive by a house and take a picture of the front of it to put in your Hannah presentations for the first time you go to this house, there are chances, you never know what the inside could show. And that's a total extreme, but it has happened to me. So don't be surprised if you see a house that's just neat and tidy on the outside and inside it's so not. Your marketing, presentation, soft close, pricing and closing, and then putting it all together. There's all sorts of right ways, to do this. And you know, Maggie and I will talk certainly about how I do it, how she does it. And at the end of the day, you've got to be sure that you want to work with these people. You know, I know it's easy for me to say sitting here in my home office that you don't have to work with everybody. And wouldn't it be nice to be able to pick and choose who you did get to work with? You know, only the nice, reasonable people, my favorite word for 2021. So again, we'll talk a little bit about that also. Maggie?
So the seller interview, it's a precursor to the Howard Hanna programs and marketing materials. It provides an opportunity to address the benefits of representation. So why should a seller work with you? Why work with a realtor at all? And when we talked about FSBOs, we talked a little bit about that. Anybody remember any kinds of numbers? So if a FSBO sold a house for $200,000, what did it sell for when they used a realtor? Yes, Cheryl. Unmute yourself, girl.
Isn't it like around 180-ish, 175? It's like 20%, 10%. I don't remember, but it's a lot more than what they listed.
If a FSBO sold it for $200,000, you're saying that with a realtor it was 180?
Roughly.
Cheryl Walton, what was your memory?
I think it was 280, I thought.
Yes.
Oh, Sorry.
Yeah, the other direction.
Okay.
So way,
Okay.
way more money. And in different areas, it's different. It's usually at least 16% more. That's the lowest number I've ever seen. And right now it's been considerably higher. And that's because of marketing and those kinds of things. And Cheryl Marin, there are no wrong answers.
That's okay. I'm still
We're all
learning.
learning. We're all learning together. We're all learning
I'm
together,
okay.
and you're gonna you'll get a handle on it, and that's why I ask you questions, and it's so you're not wrong. We're learning. We're all learning. Gives you insights into sellers' motivations, needs, urgency. So seller interview is there not just to get that agreement signed, but to build that rapport. Why are they selling? Why do they need to sell? Where are they going? What's their timeline? What's the motivation for the move? We've talked about this over the last few weeks. Someone remind me of a couple of what are some things that motivate people to move?
Divorce.
Yes. It's one.
Job transfer.
Yes.
Growing family.
Growing family. Yes.
Downsizing.
Downsizing.
Downsizing, shrinking families. Also, like, and don't always think that somebody who's 65 is downsizing. I had a couple, they had a beautiful little house that they had just updated tremendously and beautifully cared for with 3 really teeny tiny bedrooms. They had 5 grandchildren. They upsized to a 5-bedroom Victorian.
Mhm.
And I thought at first they're nuts. They went to this big Victorian with 5 bedrooms and an attic that can be finished, a full basement. And they wanted to right size so the grandchildren could come and spend time at their house. And they've done a beautiful job renovating. What they did for themselves is they bought that Victorian in town where it was walkable to restaurants and the library and stores and shops, where their other house was 8 miles out of town and in the middle of Mennonite farm country. So they brought it in. They walk everywhere. They're healthier than they tell me than they've ever been. They have more time because they're not driving anywhere anymore. They just feel like they have more of everything, and they have more of their grandchildren. Not so much once March hit, but the year before they had the grandchildren all the time. But so never assume that just because someone's older that they're going to downsize. Make sure you ask them what they need, because that's where my mind went when I first met with them. Oh, they're going to want a small house. Nope. They wanted this big giant house. Make sure you don't talk them out of it. And it gives you that time to build a rapport. If you build a relationship from the seller interview, how do you think the rest of the transaction goes? Right? If you're friends from day one and they trust you as a business person, and it's a fine line. Don't build so much rapport that you're so friendly that you can't tell them what they need to do. You have to maintain that professional objectivity. But the more you know, the better you can serve your clients' needs. Jen.
I get the slide with the cocktail glass.
It's perfect for you.
And don't think that a seller interview has to be conducted at the seller's kitchen table. Especially in this day and age, that's why we all need to get very comfortable with the Zoom platform, with Microsoft Teams platform, FaceTime if you have iPhone products. You need to be able to be flexible for how people want to meet. A lot of people, it takes them a lot of time and attention to get to the place where, yes, I'm ready to sell. And that's okay, because if has anybody gone through selling their own home? It's, in the best of circumstances, it's a nightmare. It's just a nightmare. I sold my big colonial a couple of years ago, and, I'm not a big knick-knack kind of person. I think I have this, clean, tidy, relatively stripped down house. Oh my gosh, I had so much stuff I had to get rid of out of my big Colonial. And it was just, it took so much time for in my head, and I'm a realtor, to say, all right, I'm ready to go through the pain of getting my house ready and putting it on the market. So, be patient with people because, a lot of consumers are going to have a ton of questions. So, it may be a discussion over a cup of coffee at your local coffee shop, or lunch or dinner or cocktails. A lot of real estate gets done before and after COVID at your neighborhood bar, at your happy hour location. And again, like, Tim said, he ran into his son's lacrosse coach at the grocery store. Get good at bringing up the topic of real estate, even if it's just like, oh, I just ran in for a quick cup of coffee in between real estate appointments. Oh, I didn't know you were in real estate. Say the word. I'm running into the grocery store to buy my pita bread in between appointments. They don't know that your appointment is to send Maggie and me your bio to review. It doesn't matter. But get comfortable with that conversation. You'll meet people at open houses, at email, via email, you'll converse because some people are very comfortable with that medium. Floor time, opportunity time, desk duty, whatever your branch calls it, if you have it. And again, it can be in multiple phases. Selling your house is not something that most people just are like, yeah, I think I'll sell my house today. Because it is quite a project of production. It's painful in the best of times. So be ready, willing, and open to have the dialogue with people. And also just remember that when you're at your neighborhood bar or at your neighborhood burger joint or in the grocery store, just remember that real estate is not a 9-to-5 gig. For all of those who have had 9-to-5 gigs in the past, this isn't it. And that's a good thing in a way. So be passionate and be excited about the business, and always be ready, willing, and able to strike up a conversation with somebody, because it may have been like sort of niggling in the back of somebody's brain to say, maybe we should look at in-law places because, mom's not getting any younger, or my 23-year-old son's having a hard time finding a job. Maybe we need to find a better situation for him to come back and live back at home. Maybe we need to right size, downsize. I can't do stairs anymore. I had a knee replacement, so I need to be all on one level. I mean, there's for every human being, there's a story of why you need to sell. So, keep your mind open to all those possibilities.
I have a question.
Sure, Lisa.
As far as floor time, how much experience do you think we need before we should do floor time?
I can answer that very definitively. If your office has floor time, let your manager know that you want to do it. And so then the manager will probably set a time where another agent has floor time, so you can come and shadow them, so that you can sort of learn maybe the dialogue, some offices, the person on phone duty is the first point of contact for when the phone rings. Some offices, the admin answers all the calls and the phone duty person is just the person to answer the real estate questions. So ask your manager and say, I really want to get on the phone duty schedule. What do I have to do to make that happen? And usually it's partnering with an experienced agent who's good on the phones. You learn the mechanics of what buttons to push to transfer calls, and you get comfortable with some dialogues to use with people, like Maggie in her prior class about asking all sorts of great questions to qualify people.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
You're welcome. So one of the things that, when Jen was talking about this, one of the things that triggered for me is when you're talking to anybody, whether it's an open house or at the grocery store, cocktails, be sure you're adding value. So if somebody says, oh, well, I'm thinking about selling, but I don't really, in a couple of years, you could maybe send them neighborhood news. You could maybe send them a checklist on how to prepare their house for listing. Jen and I do a class a couple times a year called agent checklists, and we have this huge body of checklists that we've created with Natalie to help you. But add value. Remember that you're a resource. What can you add? How can you add value? So when you're talking to them, and it's also a great way to get their email address and their phone number. Oh, give me your email and I'll send you this. Give me your phone and I'll call you with that. Try to get both. It's a great opportunity to get their contact information so that you can start to build a drip campaign. And I don't want that to sound like you're being overly manipulative. I want you to add value, and the value has to be genuine and true to the needs of that person. Does that make sense? It's not
Yes.
just, I just need to get your email. That's not what we want you to do. We want you to build a rapport with a genuine relationship and add value. So let's go to the next slide. Seller interview, building rapport. Who's heard of Ford? Did we do Ford earlier? I can't remember. Family, occupation, recreation, and dreams. How do we use Ford to have a conversation? Who wants to ask somebody a family or friend question? Somebody pick somebody on the screen and ask them a family or friend question. I'll wait. Why don't you just pick another person, call them by name, and ask a family or friend question?
I'll go. Jennifer, how many children do you have?
I have 2 boys actually, and they're like almost grown up. They're 28 and almost 21. It's really
Wow.
scary to think that my kids are that old.
And are they out of the house already?
They are, well, they are. My oldest got married about 1.5 years ago. And then my younger one just went back to college. He is a sophomore at University of Buffalo.
Yay, that's where my son is. 2 of my son.
So
Oh, really?
Yeah.
was that
there
hard
you
to
go.
do? Cheryl, was that hard to do?
No, because this is what I do as my other job. I'm always engaging.
Great.
And
So-
it is a skill that the more you do it, the better you get at it. And I think maybe the older you are, the more life experiences you have. I gotta say, as an aside, my 28-year-old son cracks me up. He'll text me, call me, Mom, how do I do this? When he had first moved out of the house, Mom, how do I do that? And some of the stuff was so obscure. I'm like, I'm Googling to find the answer for you. And you could just as easily do that. He's like, yeah, I know, but it's just easier to call you.
But it's reassuring to hear it from Mom's voice. There's a comfort.
Yes, I guess so. But it's funny because he said, how do you know all this stuff? I said, because I've lived longer than you have.
It's the answer to a lot of things. So who wants to try the occupation question? Pick somebody on the screen and ask an occupation or profession question.
Hey, Tim, did you get that new job you were trying to get?
I sure did. Thanks for asking.
Pretty simple, right? Recreation or fun? Who wants to try that one? Now, guys, this is what you're going to be doing. And this is a very safe environment. Go ahead, give it a whirl.
Justin, what do you do when you're not doing real estate?
I swim at the Y. Thank you for asking.
Love swimming. I just
Wait,
started a couple years ago.
Justin, I have to, which Y are you at?
It's the one in Pittsford.
Oh, Pittsburgh. Okay, I was gonna say, if you were a competitive swimmer, I'd tell you to join our master's program if you were in Saratoga.
He's
Not
a
quite
little
that-
far from Saratoga at this
Yeah,
moment.
I
Who
know. Sorry.
wants to try the dreams and long-term goals question?
And this is probably the hardest one.
Cheryl, where do you see yourself in 5 years with your career?
Did you just say Cheryl?
I did.
Yes. In 5 years, I hope to be quitting this job that I'm currently at. And I'm hoping to be successful with my selling homes and helping people find the right home.
Bet you will.
Actually, it's going to be less than 5 years. I wanted to really knock it out by June. I want to be done with my job.
Good for you.
Yeah.
So a good dreams question that you can ask, because that is a tough one. Somebody taught me this a long time ago. If money and time and were no object, what would you do? How would you spend your time? That speaks to a larger issue for people, and it makes them pause and it makes them think. They're like, boy, if money was no object, and if I had all the time in the world, what would I do? You know, so if it's travel, you can tie that into real estate, but you can also tie it into their, you know, if you could live anywhere you want, where would it be? Why? If you could have any house that you want, what would it look like? What would it incorporate? So those are the kinds of questions. So good for all of you for practicing. I appreciate that. Find someone to practice this with. Ford, find someone. You can pick somebody from the screen. I've had people do this where they buddied up with somebody not necessarily in the area, and they calling and they're practicing these things. It's a great thing. Who do you like emotionally connect with when you're watching on the screen? Try to connect with those people.
And again, it's not like you're going to hit somebody over the head with these questions. Like, don't say anything. I have these list of questions. I need to ask you this, and you better have the right answers. That's not the point, obviously. But, you know, I say that because I don't want people to get turned off. These are sort of just touch points to remind you in your brain. If you do have a hard time sort of building that rapport with people, keep these subjects in mind, because these are what people want to talk about anyway. So again, it's like anything else, practice, practice, practice.
Yeah, absolutely. We don't want you to ask them in order. We don't want to ask them like it's a regiment. These are reminder points. When I was on the phone with people, I would often just write down Ford, the word Ford, to remind me to ask about something about them, so that I could add that to their notes so that I'd have something to come back to. All right, Jen. Did you have a question, Peter?
No, I just said I thought that was cool, just because you can kind of tie in occupation with long-term goals. And then obviously if you're trying to build a report, what do they sell houses every 5 years? And you can learn about them, and if they're in a position where they're a sharp professional or something like that, you know, you'll know that maybe that, well, regardless, that they'll most likely buy a home in the future, maybe a more expensive one.
But don't forget that other people maybe they're not going to buy another home for 5 or 10 years, but who do they know in their life who is?
Exactly, too. Yeah, you might know people in their occupation.
Yeah, so they're never just them. There's usually this other web of people behind them. Jen, go ahead.
Yeah, and your goal is to build rapport. It's not to, you know, bang anybody over the head to say you got to buy or sell a house right this moment. You've got to build that rapport and keep that going, because at the end of the day, who uses you, you want them to know you, like you, and trust you, and that takes time, and that's okay. Again, there are no silver bullets, magic pills for this industry. It's the slow and steady wins the race. So, you know, seller interview, talking about the property. When you're speaking to a potential seller, have them describe their own home. And, you know, ask them, how long have you owned it? What attracted you to the house when you bought it? Well, the price. This was all I could afford. Okay, that's great. What do you like about it the most? Oh, I love the private backyard. What do you like the least? All the stairs. You know, the laundry's in the basement and the bedrooms are all upstairs. You know, whatever. Since you bought the home, what improvements have you done? Major improvements. You know, you redid the kitchen, you updated the bathrooms, you know, whatever. You put a fence in the backyard, pool, gazebo, whatever. And when. And those are things that you want to make a note of. And, you know, you should have looked up the address to get tax information, to get the old listing if they had purchased it. You know, 7 years, 5 to 7 years is usually, 7 years is really probably the benchmark for turnover rate. Maggie, do you want to do the next slide? The
Sure.
continuation.
If you were to
Uh,
stay another 5 years, what would you update or do to the house? Ask them that. Looking through buyer's eyes, rate the property's current condition. So if you're a buyer, what would they notice that a seller doesn't notice because they see it every day? How many of you have put something by the front door that you're going to take out to your car, and 3 days later it's still by the front door and you almost don't see it anymore? Lisa's like got her hand up in the air. Yeah, it happens all the time. It's
I
called
will walk
habituation.
over it. I'll step over it. Like that's bad. Always in a rush.
But it's common. People don't see the cobwebs in the corner. They don't see the chipped paint. There's little things they don't see. So look through the buyer's eyes and keep it in your head at first. With the updates that Jen mentioned, make sure you're making a sheet because you're going to want to have that at your open houses. Scale of 1 to 10, tear it down and start over. 10 ready to be published in a magazine. What would take it to a 10? Sometimes nothing will take it to a 10, except a lot of money. And that's okay. I have a realtor in my office who learned from a realtor that when she first started, she was on a team, and that person said, we can sell a doghouse if we have to. And you may buy or sell a doghouse. My very first buy was a $40,000 hut house. It was a really giant, big doghouse.
And you know what? When my girlfriend was on Match.com and turned it into her job, she said, Jennifer, there is a lid for every pot. And in real estate, that too applies. Just because it's a house that you would never darken the doorstep of to live in, there are people out there who that's maybe their dream house or their, whatever. But there is truly a lid for there is a buyer for every property.
Yeah, like that hut house that I had, it was purchased by a guy who wanted to use it as an investment, but he wanted to make sure he got it. So a guy who worked for him was getting a divorce. He was going to live in the house for a year because there's some parameters around HUD. And then after, they were going to sell it and use it as a rental property. So he was able to bought this house for $40,000. They put a bunch of money into it and it's now worth something like 130 or 40,000. So you can do that. And that she's right. There's a lid for every pot. Jen.
So seller interview, reasons for moving. Ask the question. Why are you going to go through the pain of selling your house and moving? Ultimately, where would you like to be? And why are you moving there? I finally, my son graduated high school, and so I was able to get rid of my big colonial that was just too much and a half-acre, lawn I didn't want to mow anymore, and a lot of dusting I didn't want to do anymore. So I wanted to get a house that was smaller, wanted everything on one floor, and I wanted it to be in an HOA, so I didn't have to mow anymore. I could get rid of my lawnmower. And so I had very definite goals, and I had a definite time frame too. So why move now? Well, I don't need the school district anymore, so I can now get creative and be in a wider swath of looking as far as I wanted my commute to stay the same, but a lot of other things could change. So plans after the house sells, because right now houses are selling within hours. So what's their plan B? Where are they going to next? Are they going to have to rent something short term? I actually sold my house before my son graduated high school. So we ended up moving into an apartment so that he was able to graduate from the district. So when I was ready to buy, I was completely unencumbered. I didn't have to sell something in order to buy. So have people go through that thought process. And what are their feelings about moving? Are they thinking that they're going to get all of their friends and relatives on a U-Haul and make 3 trips with the truck size that they can afford? And that's great. I did it plenty of times myself. Or are they just like, nope, I don't want to touch a thing. I'm going to pay movers to come in and pack every pair of shoes and every water glass I own. And that's okay too. There's just a price tag that goes along with that. And again, benefits of moving. It's painful. I know my sister has said, oh, I think I'm going to sell my house and fill in the blank. And I'm like, she's got a detached 2-car garage with the attic space over it that is chock full of stuff. Her husband has a business, she has a business. I can't imagine them ever, nobody's going to blast them out of that house. She has no idea what goes into emptying a home to completely move out of it so someone else could, move in and start their own dreams. So have that conversation with people, because if you have not moved recently, you need to be reminded of the pain and be okay with going through the pain.
That last question, biggest benefit and drawback of moving, it's often the same thing, and that thing is neighbors. Sometimes the biggest benefit is moving because you can get away from a neighbor you can't stand. Sometimes the biggest drawback is you're leaving neighbors who've been the best friends you've ever had. So it's good to know that question, especially around the neighbors, might come up because it's emotional. You also want to make sure if they say they're moving away because they have a horrible neighbor, that doesn't get out to the potential buyer, because they may have a completely different relationship with the neighbor. It may work fine for them. But if they're wonderful neighbors, that's something you want to share with buyers. It's a really close neighborhood. They take care of each other. They're this is they're friendly, very friendly and encompassing and inclusive. So keep that in mind. Seller interview urgency, now or later. You have to settle the timeline. What's your timeline? What's your timeline? Have they found a new home? Are they working with a realtor? What if this house doesn't sell? What if it sells quicker than expected? That one's scary, especially now. I think I told you last week that I had a young woman who was a foster mother. Her house sold 3 days after this was before seller's market. Her house sold 3 days in, and she didn't have anywhere to go yet. So we drove around, felt like we drove a million miles finding her next house. We saw a lot of houses because she had, as a foster parent, her house had to have certain things, or she was going to have to put them in to make it compliant. And she had very definite ideas of what that would look like. Any contingencies to consider? So what are some contingencies? I know when I was a new realtor, this was a little mind-boggling. So who can tell me what some contingencies are for a seller?
One could be if they have to find a new house, like put an offer on a new one, find somewhere else to live before they sell theirs.
Right? Yes, that's called the sale and title transfer contingency, which is a class all in of itself. What's another contingency a seller might have?
That they want to be out by a certain time.
Right. So sometimes it can be sooner, sometimes it can be later because they're maybe building and it might take 5 to 6 months. So closing date, that's something that can influence a multiple offer that isn't cash, more time. What's another contingency a seller might have? What about, I'm taking the washer, dryer, I'm taking the refrigerator, I'm taking all the appliances except the stove. That's a contingency. And that can be, depending on the price point especially, that can be a detriment. So you may want to talk through that contingency and find out, is that really what you want to do? Is that something you really want to move? So contingencies, there's lots of them. What are some contingencies that a seller might want to take care of with regard to inspection before they ever put the house on the market? Jen?
Mold, perhaps. I had my house pre-inspected, which means that as a seller, I had a home inspector come in. I paid that home inspector, licensed home inspector, to do a full home inspection. So I knew what a buyer might find. So, yep, I had a house by this builder. It was a colonial. Every single one of his houses had, they were almost 48 years old, had spots of mold. So I had a remediator come in and I paid to take care of it all. there was a couple issues with my fuse box, my panel box. I wound up replacing the whole thing. It was all brand new. Every little thing I addressed ahead of putting the house on the market. So I was able to list it saying, yep, this house may be almost 40 years old, but it's been pre-inspected. And in hindsight, it was the absolute best thing to do. It's a little scary, painful, because you're like, oh no, what are they going to find? But a buyer is going to have it inspected, so better to find it out ahead of time so the seller can deal with that versus having to, put the fires out during a transaction. I will say that some less scrupulous agents out there, especially in this market, may say to a buyer, offer more than asking price because we'll get it back on inspections. Don't do that, but be very aware, because I'm quite sure the people who bought my home paid full price. They tried to get me to replace all the windows in the house. Some of the windows, the gas had leaked out, so they were sort of foggy. They had a window guy, a professional window installer, come and inspect the windows. And he said, there's nothing wrong, physically wrong with these. It's just, it's aesthetic more than anything. But I'm quite sure all along the way, the buyers thought they were going to get credits or something to make their full price be lower than full price. They didn't, because I had done the pre-inspection, and it was huge. It's definitely something for an older home to consider as a seller.
Yeah, a year and a half ago, I had a friend who listed her house with me. She'd been in it for 22 years. She'd been married and divorced a couple of times. She had 5 children. House had seen better days. She hadn't done a lot to it. I had lived in that neighborhood, so I knew what those houses were selling for intimately. Aside from my CMA, when I first saw it, I said, well, we can list it 200,000 if you want to list it as is. We can probably list for 240 if we do these things. She had the pre-inspection. She spent $16,000. She replaced boards on the deck. She cleaned the floors. She replaced a window that was cracked. She got a new roof. She had a new furnace put in. She had a new water heater put in. She had the whole house on the outside soft washed, which was an environmentally friendly wash that doesn't damage the roof or the siding. And they did even her patio furniture. It was amazing. And the house looked so much fresher. Spent $16,000. I have to tell you, I was like, oh, please let my numbers have been right. She sold for $238,500. So she spent $16,000 and made more than this. She more than doubled her investment. And she also felt good about selling the house to this young couple who bought it because they didn't need to do anything. And they bought the HSA warranty as buyers. So they were covered all around because the kitchen appliances were still a little bit older. So they got covered in that way. Some of the expensive things were done. So the contingencies, if you're in the rural area, you're going to want to think about well and septic. Your seller usually pays for that. You may want to think about, it's not a contingency, but having your furnace cleaned and inspected before you sell. Pre-inspection that Jen was talking about in a seller's market, if you believe that that's a good service for your sellers, they will believe it, and it is. It will protect them in the long run and make for a smoother closing with a better price at the end if they've taken care of everything before they ever get listed. It's a really smart thing to do, and very, very few realtors are doing it. I've been doing it for a few years now. It's a really excellent way to get the house listed. Seller
So do
interview.
you suggest that we suggest to them to do that?
I do. I talk to your
Okay.
manager and see
Okay.
yeah, there's lots of good reasons to do it. Yeah, I think Jen and I both support pre-inspection.
Yeah, I mean, you pay for it, but you can get a full house inspection done for, $200,000, $300,000, $450,000, whatever. And And I feel it's a lot of peace of mind for the sellers because they're going into this with eyes wide open. If they choose to not do anything, that's fine, but at least they know what a buyer is going to find anyway in their own inspection. So I think I'm surprised people don't do it more often. I even put in the remarks when I sold my own home that it had been pre-inspected. Not one single potential buyer asked to see that inspection report.
Wow.
I would have shared it with them, but that sort of surprised me. And most buyers, a buyer's agent's going to say you really should get your own inspection. They could have used mine and saved a couple $100. But when it came down to it, their inspector found exactly the same stuff that I fixed. So I think it makes very good sense. It's a reasonable request. Not every seller is going to do it. And in this market, maybe they feel like they don't have to, and perhaps they don't, but it's certainly something that we should be suggesting as the professional.
Yeah, I believe in it. I think it's a great way for you to put a clean house on the market with all the information. As the seller does not have to share the report, they do have to disclose if there's something that's on that property condition disclosure. But if they've repaired it, they can disclose that this was found and this was treated in this particular way. So there is a little double-edged sword there. But in my mind, forewarned is forearmed, and you're in a much better position. You can say, we already know about this, we're not taking care of it, and we've priced the house for that problem. So that's how you can use that. Seller previous experiences. How many houses have they owned? If this is the only one and they've been in that house for 40 years, they do not know what the market's like, and that's good information for you to have. Have they worked with an agent before? Maybe they inherited their house. I sold a house a few years ago that had been in the family since 1909. It was built by a grandparent. I thought that was pretty cool. And finally, they got to the generation that just didn't want to deal with it anymore.
Maggie, I'm sorry. The one thing I wanted to suggest, coming from, I'm going to be selling my house probably within the next couple of years. So my husband and I took our inspection that we had, the report, and started going through everything and made sure that stuff was cleared up as well prior to selling.
Yeah, you can do that, but an inspector, I would recommend that you actually have an inspector before you sell it and not use an old inspection report, because the inspection report, and I just did a class on with home inspectors, there's over 1,500 points on that report.
Right.
As a realtor, I'm not qualified to go through that or identify every item. So even if I were selling my own house and I felt pretty comfortable, I'd still have an inspector do it for me.
Yeah, absolutely. But I would clean up the ones that were already there.
Oh, absolutely. Totally.
Just to get you back in that frame.
Yeah, absolutely. Ask them how they feel about moving. Most people hate it. Some people love it. My daughter's mother-in-law moves every 10 years regardless. 10 years, they're done, they move. She had a beautiful lake house. I couldn't imagine why they moved. It was beautiful. They had done everything they needed, and now that it was done, they moved again. Ask them to tell you about your prior experiences selling a house. How did it go? Was it a good experience? Was it a terrible experience? If it was a good experience, what made it a good experience? If it is a terrible experience, what made it a bad experience? Why do you want to ask that question?
There might have been something that was done during one of their other experiences that you can kind of steer clear of, something that rubbed them the wrong way, a bunch of different things that you can be aware of as you're trying to go forward with them.
Yeah, and you can do it better. Make sure if they had a bad experience in that area that you make that a good experience with you, because you'll be the realtor for life. The previous realtor obviously isn't, because you're there. So they're not, so you become the realtor for life. If they listed their house before, how did they feel about the job their agent did? So this is that question. How did they do? What did they do well? What did they do poorly? What do you think they could have done better? And then you'll also have some idea of what their expectations are. You set expectations, guess what? So do they. They need to be really close. You need to match their expectations, meet or exceed. So under promise, over deliver. Under promise, over deliver. Don't over promise and under deliver. That's the wrong way to go. And a lot of realtors think if they just throw out a bunch of words and I'm going to do this and do that, that no one's going to remember what they said. Oh, they remember. So make sure you under promise, over deliver, and you make a list of everything you committed to and make sure you do it when you said you were going to do it. And if for some reason you can't, what should you do? You made a promise, you're going to do it by Monday, the 10th. You can't. No fault of your own. What do you do?
Follow up with them immediately and notify them.
Perfect answer. Prior experiences influence today's expectations. Jen.
Yep. So again, setting expectations from meeting one with a seller, with a potential seller, most important factors in choosing a realtor. These are the most important factors to the seller, not to you as the realtor, because everybody's going to have a different opinion on that. And so for a seller in an ideal situation, what do you expect? And, you know, most they're going to be, you know, sell it fastest for the highest price. Yep. Okay. That's actually not always the case. So ask them, what are their expectations? And again, ask them, how did you hear about the company? How did you hear about me? Everybody on this call is almost brand new. That's okay, because you've got the full force of Howard Hanna behind you. You've got your office manager. So it's very easy to say, oh, you've never heard of me. Yep, I'm newer. And I have all this help and support backing me up on my team, which even if you're not on a real estate team per se, you can say, I have a team of people behind me with hundreds of years of experience, you know, added together. It's, you know, it jokes. My significant other and I are both in real estate, and between the two of us, we have 65 years of experience. And so, and you know what, that's important. Any other questions you want me to address when we meet? So, and this could be in an email format or via a phone call, or, you know, you met somebody at a bar and you're going to have a sit down with them at their kitchen table. Ask these questions right up front, because you want to be informed. You want to be able to answer their questions. And so you can tell them how you do run your own business. But in the process, make sure that you are meeting and exceeding all of their expectations, because everybody's expectations are going to be different. So you need to know what they are. And in order to know what they are, you need to ask the questions.
Yeah, so one of the questions they may want you to address when you meet next is, do you know any loan officers? Do you know a handyman? Do you know, should I paint my house inside and out? Can you help me with staging? So they may ask you that before you meet, and you can come armed with a list of people to help you get through those questions. Again, be the resource. Have a list that's usable, sizable for you to address a lot of questions. The more you know up front, the better prepared you are for the actual meeting. The more you've learned about the house or the tax record, and asking for permits, calling the electric and gas and finding out what the average bill is. You can find that out for any address. I'd call on Yen's house and say, if I knew the address, and get the electric bill, get the gas bill, and have that information. So the more you know, information's power. The more you know, the better. All right.
Yeah, we don't have time for that.
We don't have time for that, but that's all right. We don't have time for this, but you are going to get this PowerPoint. Would you please pick somebody to practice this with, whether it's somebody here or somebody in your office or somebody in your household? And if you can't do that, if you call me or text me or email me, I will find some time to set, 15 or 20 minutes, and you can practice with me. I would prefer you get another agent. Why? Because you all need the experience. But if you can't find somebody, call me. I think Tim will tell you. I'll talk to you. And I'll help you out. That's, this is the part of real estate that we love, is helping individual agents be successful. That's why we like training. We love to see your success. We absolutely love it. I see Kyle. Kyle, we're just wrapping up. Always be closing. I had a trainer say to me that they weren't sure people at your level of experience knew what closing is. Does everyone know what it means to close? I said yes.
Yes.
I thought you did.
Yes.
Good. So closing is that those questions to ask for, to sign an agreement, to move forward to for a sale. And you need to always be closing. And there's many, many levels of closing. There's many ways to close. There's trial closes and assumptive closes. And there's all these other, and there's education available on Hannah U. Dan Elzer does a great series on closing. And I can share that with you if you guys want it. Have an action item. Next step agreed upon before ending a conversation or meeting, and reiterate the plan or the timeline. Always ask for the order. If you don't ask, you don't get it. Mark Ray, the other day, he ended with ask, receive, believe, right? Ask, believe, receive. You got to ask. You got to believe you're going to get a positive answer. And when you do, you most often will. So take control of your destiny, your business, and your relationship. You can leave it up to the person you're working with, or you can take control of it. And taking control of it doesn't mean you're like, Jim the Hammer Shapiro. Does everybody know who he is? The old attorney who used to smash this. He was one of those attorneys on television. Jim the Hammer Shapiro, come to me and I'm going to get you all the money. You don't have to be that person. You can just be warm and ask for the order. Be yourself and ask for the order. And Kyle's going to talk a lot about that sort of stuff in just a minute.
I will say though, Maggie, I still remember his phone number.
Do you? What is it?
1-800-546-7777. The Hammer.
The Hammer. Yeah. It's true. He was this little teeny tiny guy, and he was just obnoxious.
Of course he was.
So in your books, 38, 39, and 40 for the seller interview, there's some great material in here. Go over it. Start to find a partner. Start to find a partner to work with. And then I'm going to stop sharing. And Jen, do you want to introduce Kyle?
Sure. Well, I'm going to have Kyle introduce himself, but thanks, Kyle, for being early, because if you're not early, you're late in my universe. So I do appreciate your being here. Kyle is a very active agent, associate broker, who also is an assistant manager in Ithaca. And you're also a past board president. Is that correct?
Correct.
So he knows his stuff. He's actively, daily involved in the real estate business. So he is a fabulous person to be teaching for us. I appreciate his time. So Kyle, without further ado, take it away. And you've got shareability if you need to share anything.
Okay, great. Yeah, I got, Maggie sent me the slides, so we'll run through some of those and I'll kind of riff and do some of my own stuff too. So thank you, everybody. I'm sure you guys had a long day already. So in my trainings, for those of you that haven't met me before, like we said, my name's Kyle. Feel free to put any questions that you have in the chat box and we'll circle back to those at the end, or maybe at the end of the segment. I've been an active agent since 2007. When I got in the business, I was about 22 years old and kind of built everything up, ground up, made most every mistake that you can make in the business. So I appreciate you guys hopping on, and I hopefully can relay some things that I struggled with when I was first starting out. And maybe you guys can pick up some things to do and also some things not to do, so you make the best use of your time. But it's a fun business. It's really, it's more of a lifestyle than a job. When you work in real estate, people are like, oh, thank God it's Friday. And I'm like, what's the difference? You know what I mean? I got my 9 to 5, I got my 5 to 9, and then I work weekends too. But the neat part is you really do have a lot more autonomy and control over your schedule. But with that responsibility also comes, accountability. You have to actually show up and do the work because no one's going to be there, poking the bear saying, hey, where are you? So we're talking today about one of my favorite topics, which is listing presentation, talking to sellers, working with sellers. And, I do think that, as you start to progress your career, most agents start out, they're working with a handful of buyers. Maybe they pick up a listing here or there off of Floor Time or off of, a friend or something like that, family member. But you want to focus your business on listings as you progress in your career. And I would say, start now. I mean, there's no reason that you can't start immediately, but, listings really are the key to this business. For one, you get the best free advertising in town, which is, a 4x4 sign or whatever size sign you guys have in somebody's front yard, which is basically, an authorization from that particular homeowner to everybody else in their neighborhood that you are the person that is, honest, trustworthy, able to perform, and all of the things like that. It conveys a good sense of trust and opportunity within that neighborhood. So a lot of the things that I do as a listing agent are also to market myself within that neighborhood, because unless it's a neighborhood you really don't want listings in, in my market area in Ithaca, we're a very, very small market. So there aren't really, parts of town that I don't want listings in. But it gives you an opportunity to really leverage the neighborhood so that you can also, kind of grow your business within a particular area. And there's no better endorsement than saying, hey, that house that I have for sale down the street, or that property I just put under contract down the street, when you're talking with a new prospective seller. I do think dealing with sellers in particular is kind of a different animal. For one, there's there's a high burden of responsibility when you're dealing with sellers, because, you're basically setting the market price for the property. They're, if assuming that they listen to you and they list with you, you could potentially make or lose them tens of thousands of dollars, sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars, depending on the price point that you work in. So, I take a lot of reverence in my craft and what we do, and really making sure that we get, not only the marketing dialed in, but also the price, and making sure that the transition is something that they will have a positive experience with, so that they can recommend me throughout the neighborhood and to their friends and their social circle as somebody who really, stepped in and helped them out. Buyers tend to be, and not for the entire course of the process, but buyers tend to be happier people, because it's exciting to go look at houses. It's fun. It's adventurous. You're opening doors. You're checking out closets. You're going and looking. You're imagining. You're dreaming. You're thinking about, is this the property that's going to make me look cool when I have my cousins and my family over? They're going to be like, wow, look at you. Look what you did. This is an amazing place. Sellers, on the other hand, they're excited to make their move, but it's also an exceptionally stressful time. It's a very intrusive time where people are, looking in your closet, looking in your drawers, opening your refrigerator, trouncing around your house. It's a very exposed process. And, they say the great stresses of life are death, large sums of money, moving, and taxes. And maybe fifth, then there's divorce. And a lot of times we're dealing with, several or all of those at the same time when you're dealing with a seller, because we have to talk about, why do people move? Well, they outgrew their house, they got a different job, they got a different significant other, or they finally got a significant other and now they need a bigger house, or they had kids are gone, those kind of things. So you have to really be sensitive to the fact that when you're talking with a person who's going to be selling their property, you're not usually talking with a person that's in the most calm, rational, collected state of mind. You're talking to somebody who is probably fairly anxious, has a lot going on, is probably wrapping up, or a lot of times wrapping up one job, starting another job, dealing with school transition if they have children. All of those types of things are kind of at play. So the more that you can kind of hit on, those intangible things, and we'll talk about how to market Hannah and how to market yourself and things like that. But I find, when you're sitting in classes like this, they'll tell you things like build rapport, right? Well, how do you actually do that? You don't want to just have, there's agents that have like their flip chart, like here's my presentation and everybody gets the same presentation. Here's your house, here's your pricing, here's my marketing plan, here's this, and it can feel kind of transactional. And I think that the most successful agents are really taking the time to talk with the clients. And as a seller's agent, you're kind of figuring things out and coming up with a game plan that makes the most amount of sense for your particular client. And really try to figure out, I always say when I first sit down with a client, let's identify the hard part of a situation. So is the hard part, because we're making a move, right? Whether they're transitioning to an apartment, whether they're buying another house, or if they're, relocating across country and buying a house cross country, all the metrics work kind of the same way. We have to figure out what's the hard part of this equation. Is the hard part getting rid of the house that you have here so that you can make your move? Or is the hard part of your equation finding that replacement property or that replacement apartment or wherever the next move is going to be, and sort of identify what's the hard part of this equation, what's the easy part of this equation, and then we're going to lay out exactly how all this stuff works, because for the most part, people don't have any idea. They know I'm moving, I need to sell, I need to relocate, I need to buy another place, but how the heck do you make all of these moving parts come together in some sort of cohesive fashion where, the sellers aren't losing their mind from stress, they're not, having to be homeless for 2 weeks or a month or something like that when you close over here and you buy over here. So a lot of it is really just asking questions and talking with them and getting that information, because if you can walk in and say, look, acknowledge the truth, commissions are expensive, moving is stressful, having your house on the market is stressful, but my job as I see it is to minimize the amount of money that you have to spend, minimize the amount of stress that you're going to incur, and come up with a game plan that makes the most amount of sense. And a lot of times it might be coming up with 2 or 3 game plans and saying, which way would you like to go? So let's take just a basic example, right? So we've got a house where the wife bought a house, out of college or whatever, a nice little 1-2 bedroom house, 3-bedroom house, small little place. Now we're married, we've got 1 kid, we've got another kid on the way, and we need a bigger property, right? So we need to sell this property and we need to buy this property, and maybe we're going to buy this property in a little bit different school district. So that's a super common scenario that we deal with all the time. Now, if we're being more transactional, we're just going to walk in and say, we'll get the house on the market, we'll put the sign on the yard, we'll make some pretty, brochures, we'll take some pictures, and we'll, make all this stuff happen. But really, I would back it up and I'd say, well, okay, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, how do you want this transition to actually go? So there's the highest cost, lowest stress option. There's the highest stress, lowest cost option, and there isn't anything in between. So which way would you like to go? And so the highest cost, lowest stress model would be, let's go buy that house, wherever it might be, in that school district that you want, buy that bigger house that we're looking for. So we have 4 bedrooms instead of 2, whatever the case might be. So the ideal situation is we find that house, we shop like a normal buyer, we buy that house, you move from one house to the next house. Then we come back over here and we sell this house, maybe put it on the market, say a couple of weeks before you're actually going to close on it. And we try and sell it quickly, so we minimize the amount of time that you're holding 2 houses and paying 2 mortgages and 2 taxes and 2 utilities, et cetera. How does that sound to you, Mr. and Mrs. Seller? And, a lot of times they'll say, well, sounds great, makes sense, but I don't really want to hold 2 mortgages. Or, well, unfortunately, I've got a couple $100,000 mortgage here, and I'm going to get a few $100,000 more mortgage over here, and the bank won't let me do that. Okay, understood. Now we got to go back and go to option B. Option B being a little bit higher stress model, but also saving you some money. So that's where we're going to simultaneously, and I would say, before you list the property, you want to kind of get them out and start working with them in the marketplace, trying to find a property that they like, or at least getting them educated on the market, even if you're looking at a bunch of properties that are no's, so that they have that sense of relative value. When they do see a property they want, they're trigger ready, boom, write the offer, contingent upon selling this house. We'll get this house on the market, and then we'll do our best to coordinate the closings. And then the trick is figuring out the logistics of it, because typically speaking, in order to close on the house over here, we need the money from this house over here. But in order to get the money from this house over here, we have to close, which means we can't live there. So either we're going to be homeless and go camping for a few weeks, which I've had people do and stick their stuff in storage, or we're going to have to figure out something else, because if you have, 2 kids and a newborn or something like that, you're not going to go sit in a camper most likely. Although in Ithaca, you may run into that because people are kind of funky here. But so what are the options there? Well, 2 options, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. We could do one of 2 things. We can either have you move in, and we'll have to check with the sellers and get what's called a pre-possession agreement. That allows you to move into the house before you actually close on your property over here. Or potentially we could close on the house over here and get what's called a post-possession agreement, where you stay a little bit longer in the house and you become a tenant. You're going to pay them, whatever, 50 bucks a day, 100 bucks a day, 30 bucks a day, whatever the case might be, for 2 weeks, so that you can then have the money from this house, but also still be living there, go close on this house over here, and then physically move from point A to point B. So, and I'm seeing a couple of heads starting to nod on the screen. This is what you do at a listing presentation. Yes, we're going to bring in flyers, and yes, we're going to bring in pretty stuff and show all the checkbox charts that, our company is so much more wonderful than any other company you could choose from. And that's all important stuff. I'm not trying to downplay that, but the most important conversations that you're going to have is explaining the process. Because again, what did we say when we first started out? We have somebody who is highly stressed, motivated to sell, dealing with large sums of money, dealing with school transitions, with children, with divorce, et cetera. They need a game plan. And your job is to be not necessarily the quarterback, but the coach. We're going to lay out, this is how it's going to go. We're not necessarily going to try and score the most amount of points. We're going to try and hold the defense here and get a couple of points where we know we can, so that this is a logical, progression to a winning game plan. So, after you have those kind of dialogues, you're going to have a much better sense of what the most logical thing is. And then we can do a lot of the stuff that we're going to talk about here in a listing presentation. But so much of it is done ahead of time, so that when you walk into the listing, for one, hopefully we've spent, I've been sitting here chatting for 15 minutes and, we haven't even had any dialogue back and forth yet. Usually when I first talk with a seller, for one, you want to make sure you have time to talk. I would budget like an hour, because you never know how long the conversations are going to go. But really dive in deep and talk with them, understand their situation, understand if they have kids, understand the finances, understand the logistics of everything. A cross-country move is going to have a few more elements in figuring out, okay, well, usually movers are 6 to 8 weeks lead time. So we're going to have to coordinate that in addition to getting your house on the market, in addition to this. And so, all of those types of things are, some of the challenges that sellers face. But guess what? That's also why we have a job. That's why we're employed, because we can kind of make sense out of all of this chaos that's going on. And that's why they're willing to pay you, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 to sell their house, because it's tricky. And if you haven't done it recently, or if you don't do it all the time like we do, it can seem absolutely, overbearing and like too much to handle. And that's when people just decide, what, forget it. I'm just going to stay, or we're going to stick an addition on the house. It's just too much. It's too confusing. So, my first job, the way that I see it, is to de-stress, decompress them, come up with a game plan that makes sense for their finances. And I'm okay either way. I guess in a perfect world, I like option A, where they just go buy a house, they move into that house, then we sell the other house. But, a lot of times financially, that's not possible, depending on where your market area is and what the price point is and how much money your client makes. So that leads me into, what do I do, when I get that call, hi, this is Kyle. Oh, great, Steve. Yeah, you got your name. You got my name from so-and-so. You want to list your house. Awesome. What I would do is I'd sit down and I go through what I call the pre-listing interview. And I know we have varying different degrees of these. There's some in the Seller Advantage Guide that we have, which is a nice dialogue. I actually use one from a class that I took a couple of years ago called Ninja, which I think is a fantastic class. If you ever have the opportunity to take it, go ahead and do it. It's put on by Larry Kendall, but there's some really neat tools that they brought out. So I wanted to share one of those with you, and we'll hop into the standard presentation here. Let me get my screen share going. Yeah, so this is the pre-listing interview is what they call it. And so this is, there's some stuff in here that you might not be familiar with. They're acronyms for Ford and things like that. But essentially what I do, if I get that call, let's say I'm driving to another appointment, or I'm at the grocery store or wherever, I always say, hey, could I call you back? I need to, I want to make sure we spend enough time here to, establish, what our game plan is. And I have some questions I'd love to answer with you or ask you, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. Could we budget, 15, 20 minutes at some point? Now, if you're in your office and you're ready to go and blah, 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 awesome. But I like to kind of have a little bit of time to know who I'm talking to. So I'm going to Google them, try and figure out where they work, learn as much as I can. If they're, like we have a ton of academics in this town. So I'll actually read their CV and see where they're published, maybe read one of their papers if it's something of interest. Try and, kind of learn a little bit more about what makes them tick. Because I can promise you this, for anybody that's been in the business for a while, the listing presentation that you do for an artist who makes, sculptures is significantly different than the one that you do for the engineer or the accountant or the astrophysicist. They're just, one's very, pictures and things, and one's very data driven and spreadsheets. And you don't really want to mix the worlds because they don't, the artist doesn't want to see Excel sheets. And generally speaking, the engineer doesn't really care that much about pretty pictures or doesn't understand the importance of them. So that's where this pre-listing interview comes in. So I'm just going to run through this kind of mock like we were, doing a pre-listing interview. So again, if it's all right with you, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, would it be okay if I asked you a couple of questions? Just takes a little bit of time for us to get to know each other, and it'll help me better prepare for our meeting. Should be about 10, 15 minutes. Is that okay with you? Now, 9 times out of 10, here's how most real estate agents take that listing call. Ready? Ring, ring, ring. Hi, this is Kyle. Oh, great. Yeah, Steve. Great. You want to list your house? Perfect. Yeah, I can come by. Yeah, Tuesday at 10 o'clock. No, how about 11:30? 11:30 it is. Awesome. All right, great. See you there. I swear to God, that's how most agents talk. And that they just want to set the appointment, get off the phone as quick as possible. There's some problems with doing it that way. I mean, it's great that you set the appointment. It's great that you got that, that fast close, but they called you. Clearly they've set some time ahead. I mean, unless they're, a very busy person, they're literally just calling an agent, come over and see me, and I've got 1 minute to make this phone call. Most of the time they have 10, 15 minutes. So if you have the same amount of time, I'd love to ask some questions of you, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, if that'd be okay. And usually like, oh yeah, sure. I mean, they called you, so they probably have 10, 15 minutes to chat. So you said your name was, Steve Jones. Awesome. And what was the property address that you mentioned there? Oh, cool. Over on Winthrop. Nice. Is that where you receive your mail? Sometimes people have, multiple properties. No, I received my mail over this address. Oh, is this a primary residence that you live in, or is this an investment property? No, this is a house. We used to live there, but then we rented it out for a couple of years. Cool. Now I'm taking notes on this sheet. Now let me ask you this, Mr. Steve. Is there anybody else on the deed with you that's going to be a decision maker in this process? Spouse, partner, wife, anything like that? Yeah, okay, my wife, Sally's going to be involved in this too. Perfect. Let me just take down some contact information just in case we get disconnected. What's a good cell phone number for you? What's a good email for you? I don't really worry about the other stuff, home phones and fax. I don't think anybody really uses them anymore. So let me ask you this, Steve, why are you selling? Common response would be something like, oh, I got to go. I just got a job offer from UPenn, so I got to get out of here. And, we're going to be moving down to Pennsylvania. Okay, great. Congratulations. Sounds exciting. So when do they need you there? When's your drop dead date? You have to be in the next place. Well, they really want us there by July, but I suppose, worst case scenario, we got to be there by, August 15th. My classes start August 25th or something like that. Okay, great. I'm making some notes here. So if you could for me, Steve, describe your house for me. And I want them to talk. So a lot of times they'll go into some of the questions below there. Oh, it's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. It's got 1,400 square feet. It's a Cape Cod. It's on about an acre lot. We've got a finished basement, blah, 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 blah. Just let them go. And I'm just taking notes right here and making note of anything that they bring up a couple of times as something of importance to them. And people will do this subliminally. They won't say, oh, it's really important to me. I take, for example, a property I sold a couple of years ago, actually last year, finally sold. I put on the market a couple of years ago. And I talked to this guy for, God, it must have been about 55 minutes to an hour. And he had mentioned newel posts to me like 15 times. Oh, I custom newel post. And I'm just sitting there, I'm like, I know what a newel post is, but I can't think of it. So I'm like over here, like Googling newel post. But as it turns out, he had kind of finished this house himself, and he was very proud of all the woodworking that he had done in it. So again, I'm writing huge asterisks on the side. Make sure to comment on beautiful newel posts as soon as you go to your listing presentation. So I'm gaining some of that inside knowledge. Number 7. So how long have you owned your property, Mr. and Mrs. Seller? Oh, great. 14 years. Awesome. It's been quite a long time then since you sold a property. Is that accurate? Again, a little leading question. Let me ask you this. What sold you about your house when you bought it? What were the features or amenities or things like that you really liked about the property? Well, it had a 3-car garage. It had, great distant views. We could see the ski slopes from our property, and we've got 5 acres of unobstructed, mountain view. Oh, awesome. Great. You know what I mean? I'm gaining knowledge about the property. Number 9. Let me ask you this, Steve. Have you done any updating to the home recently or since you've bought it? oh, well, we just redid, our master bathroom and put a new roof on it 2 years ago and then repaved the driveway, in 2016. Again, I'm taking notes, I'm writing things down. Especially for things that are recent improvements, master bath, kitchen, big ticket items, you want to make sure you're complimenting those when you get to the listing presentation. This question is amazing. So this is like, again, ninja level. Rather than saying, what's not good about your house or what's really dated in your house? What kind of stinks about your house? Well, and I'll pick on Maggie. So Maggie, if you were going to stay in your house for, let's say, another 5 years, is there any projects that you'd like to do to your property?
I have so many projects, Kyle. One is I want to tear the deck off and I want to extend it out 10 feet.
Okay, great. Anything else that you'd like to do if you're going to stay there for another, 5-6 years?
Yeah, I want to tear out the carpet in the basement. I want to put down a new floor. I want to turn one of these possible bedroom spaces into a third bedroom and maybe add an additional bath to raise the value of the house.
Gotcha. So you only have one bathroom right now, you said?
Oh, no, I have 2 full, but I have basically a 3-story house that's in the hillside.
Gotcha. So things like that you can then, if you ever watch like great comedians, they always kind of circle back to a joke they hit really well at the beginning of the presentation. Same thing, you're going to want to circle back and hit on, she said, oh, she wants to take her deck off. So most people, when they want to take their deck off, it means their deck is mostly falling off already. So we may want to, take special note to look at the deck. Does it need anything? Is there things that we can do to kind of shore that deck up prior to putting it on the market? That might be something that we're going to recommend prior to putting the property on the market. But I think this question is just beautiful with the way that it kind of discovers what's dated about the house. So you'll find out, okay, well, she also said that she's got, bad carpet. Okay, that makes sense. That might be something we're going to look at and, whatever other odds and ends they come up with. Or if they say, honestly, I don't think there's much. We've done everything. Great. It would be awesome for me if you could, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, put together an improvements list. Sounds like you've done just about everything and I don't want to, miss anything. Maybe you put down the dates and whatever you did, and email that to me. Super helpful information. Moving on. So this is a fun one too. And Maggie, I'll have you play along with this one. So let's just pretend here for a second, Maggie, that you're a buyer and you're looking at your house, right? You're looking at it through the buyer's eyes. How do you think a buyer would rate your property, say from like 1 to 10, 10 being absolutely flawless, there's nothing you could possibly do to make this house better, and 1 being, it's basically falling apart?
I think the house would probably be a 7 or an 8. We have a brand new furnace, new water heater. We have solar panels we put in the last 2 years. Wow. I have a view of Canandaigua Lake. What keeps it from being a 10 is I don't have access to the lake. That deck is in great condition, but it's only 8 feet wide. So, and it's on the lake side. So I'd like it to be bigger for entertaining. So those are some of the things I think somebody would want.
Got it. And you see how they just start, even though I'm picking on Maggie here, they start elaborating because, nobody likes dead air. And most of the time, we as human beings, most people, if you say, let me pick on somebody else here. Jen, rate yourself from 1 to 10 as a human being.
Definitely a 10.
Well, she's been in real estate a while, so she has all the calluses.
Okay, all right, I'll say an 8.
Most human beings will not say that they're perfect. Much like most homeowners will not say that their house is perfect. So if you hit them with that question, you're going to start to draw some of that information out. Now, some sellers, it's literally like you just say go and they'll talk for 45 minutes about their house. But a lot of times people will give you an answer like, yeah, it's pretty nice. It's a good place. Been there for a few years. It's worked. Like, okay, well, I got to market this thing. So it's a house. It'll work. You could live there for a couple of years. Is not exactly how you want to lead off in your description. So we got to get a little bit more information here. So the more you can draw out of them, the more you're going to have as ammo going into this listing presentation. So I'm curious, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, do you have an asking price for the property yet, or rough range that you were thinking about? Now, caveat, if you talk to 10 different agents, they'll give you 10 different answers about this. Do you want to know the price? Do you want to know the price? I don't want to know because it's going to pollute my mind when I do my market analysis. I've kind of gone both ways with it. I like to hear what they're thinking. especially if you find the gems are like, hey, I'd like 200 and I can get them 3, then you look like superhuman coming into the listing presentation, giving them, 33% more money. Or if they say, 550 and you're thinking 3, might not be a good opportunity to work together, because you don't want to take a listing that you're never going to sell if it's totally out of the stratosphere. So I'm curious, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, have you had a recent appraisal of the property or done any refinancing of the property since you bought it? Again, if they refinanced in the last year or two, maybe they have a copy of the appraisal report. We could take a look at that. Super valuable information, and will certainly make your pricing a little bit easier. If we know that it appraised for, 325 2 years ago, chances are it's not worth less, and chances are it's probably worth a bit more. So we've got a good jumping off place there. Just curious, do you have a loan on the property, or are you free and clear on the house? And if so, do you happen to know what the balance is? Now, why are we asking those kind of questions? Well, obviously, if they have a paid off house, it's not an issue. If they recently refinanced the house and got kind of a bogus appraisal, and now they're basically leveraged to what the property is worth, well, then we got to talk about, can we actually sell this property, pay all of the closing costs, pay the commissions, and get you out of this property and have enough to pay off the bank so that you can walk away from this deal. As much as we hear about, people making fortunes in real estate, we oftentimes, find people who are just kind of scraping by paycheck to paycheck, don't have a lot of equity in the house, used a VA loan when they bought the property. So they basically didn't have any skin in the game when they started, got full concessions, rolled in their closing costs. So all of these types of things are, questions that we want to dig and answer, because, if I'm going to a listing presentation for somebody who's upside down on their property, it's a much different conversation than if, they're free and clear and they can go buy a property, to make this transition easy with situation A, the most expensive option. Just curious with you, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, what are a couple of things you're looking for in somebody to represent you in your home or represent you in the marketplace? They can give you, my cousin sold a house back in California and he said, you got to do open houses. Boom, great, open houses. If it's an older seller, I can almost guarantee you they want to see their house in the paper. Whether it does anything, and we all know, the print advertising, it's not dead, but it's dying, kind of like BlackBerry, like they're still around, but not so
Hey,
sure
Kyle,
about
can
that.
I play devil's advocate with you for a second?
Absolutely.
Hey, Kyle, I want you to have an open house every weekend until it's sold. I don't care if it takes 8 months.
Perfect. Are we putting my price on the property or yours? No problem. I plan on selling your house in 2 weeks. So absolutely. That's a part of my marketing plan, which I'll go over here in a sec. I mean, honestly, as new agents, I would do it every freaking weekend. Yes. I think the number one easiest marketing plan to do 2 million in sales next year is host 100 open houses. Now, yes, caveat COVID, everything else, but I mean, that's how I grew my business. I was 22. I looked like I was 16. I don't even think my car note was in my name. I think I was like co-signed with my dad at that point. I was renting an apartment. So like I had zero credibility, and I had certainly no sphere of influence that bought or sold real estate. So the only way that I could get business was sitting on floor time and going to open houses. And I was much more the type that would rather spend 8 hours in a bunch of houses I couldn't afford than sitting at a desk. Not that there's anything wrong with either option, but I can almost guarantee you, if you perfect your craft and hit 100 open houses next year, I'd be surprised if you didn't do 2 million. Just from those.
Kyle, my son he's 19. He's taking his test next week. So
awesome.
I brought the phone in and I was like, look at this guy. He started when he was 22.
Yep.
And now
it's an
he's
uphill battle. I mean,
everywhere.
I won't sugarcoat it, but it's certainly not impossible. I mean, what you lack in experience, you make up for in energy. And I think right now there's a huge advantage to being tech savvy, whereas, and this is no offense to anybody that's on the call, the average realtor's, a 55 to 60-year-old female. So that's what the standard average realtor in America is. Nothing wrong with that. But when you bring something different to the table, there's an opportunity there. And there's also, it can go either way. Either they're looking at you like, well, you look like my grandson, so why would I entrust you with the most important financial decision of your life? You would have to be able to answer that question, with some sort of conviction and something, reasonable that somebody's going to understand. And you say, look, this is a technological world we're living in here. And let me tell you, marketing has shifted. You don't just stick a sign in the yard, throw an ad in the paper and get the property sold anymore. You need to understand the nuance of search engine optimization. You need to understand pay-per-click advertising. You need to understand how to do digital advertising on Facebook. You need to understand marketing photography and 3D and all this other stuff. Things that if they ask that average agent, maybe they have a good answer to, maybe they don't. But you can present yourself as that, young gun that's tech savvy and ready to rock. And also, I've got more energy than, anybody else in this business because I need money. I gotta, I'm ready to get after it. So good for him. So the next couple of questions, if you want to use them, great. If not, no worries. I'll send you a copy of this sheet.
I already have Natalie on it. She's already got it. She's going to send it to him.
Yep, perfect. Are you interviewing any other brokers for the job? Do I always ask this question? Not so much anymore, because most of the time I'm not competing. I usually work by referral. But there are occasions when I am competing, and it's always nice to know who I'm competing with. And if I have my druthers, I will be the last agent of the day. But small caveat to that, sometimes they hire the first one. So if I can't have last agent of the day, I certainly want to be the first agent of the day. If you're playing last agent of the day, you kind of just go through your presentation. And I know that, what I'm bringing to the table is going to be different than what everybody else said. If I'm the first agent of the day, I basically want to tell them everything that they're going to hear from every other agent, kind of like that, tell them what they're about to hear from everybody else, so that when everybody else says it, like, oh yeah, the first agent told me you were going to say that. And they already told me this is why they're better. This is why they're better. This is why they're better. You kind of take the wind out of everybody's sails.
How do you think
and then
about
again,
opening arguments?
What's that, Jamie?
Like opening arguments in a courtroom.
Yeah, exactly. So, their agency is going to come in and they're going to say that they're family owned, and they're going to come in and say that they're this. Well, we're family owned. We're family owned too. We just happen to be number one in the country. So, if you think you're hiring small town, local, whatever, well, they're doing the exact same thing we are. They're just not as good at it. And I'm picking on Warren Real Estate, but it's what's true. You know what I mean? Most of these small companies are going to start opening up offices elsewhere. And if you look at, we have a small little independent that does big numbers. I mean, they're comparable to my office in Ithaca, but they're starting to open up an office over here, and they're opening up an office over here, and they're opening up an office over here. And sometimes they try and beat out our agents by saying, oh, we're the local name. And I'm like, well, if you're local, then why do you have an office in Binghamton, Elmira, Horseheads, and Corning? That's not local. That's spreading out. You're just trying to do what we're doing. We're just way better at it. So look at that, figure out the times. Have you considered going for sale by owner? The reason that question's there in my mind, and it does strike a lot of people as like, ooh, that's a dangerous question. I didn't want to bring that up. I mean, obviously people know you can sell your house yourself. That's not that, uncommon. People have seen for sale signs in people's yards before. But what it'll do is also bring out, do you have any buyers already lined up? Is your neighbor across the street have already said, hey, Jamie, if you ever sell that property, you call me first. I'm going to buy your house. A lot of times those people have those type of situations. And again, as their listing agent, I want to draw on that and figure out, how am I going to approach this game plan? Because if they say, nope, I never thought about that, I would never try and do this. Sounds way too complicated, especially in today's market. And I see what things look like on Zillow, or I see what things look like on Realtor.com, or I see what it looks like, Again, I'm taking notes and figuring out, okay, he's a big Zillow user. Okay, loves HowardHanna.com. Okay, hates HowardHanna.com. Okay, loves open houses. Oh, no, hates open houses. I'm making all these notes so that I don't tailor a marketing presentation to say 5 things that they don't like. I'm going to leave out the stuff that they hate, and I'm going to double down on the stuff that they deem to be important. Or if there's stuff that, well, I don't want a sign in my yard, I don't want any interior pictures or something like that, well, then we can have a dialogue about that. But for the most part, people have pretty reasonable expectations. Have you ever sold a property before? Awesome question to ask, because if they haven't sold a house in 30 years, this is a very stressful situation. If they, have moved 5 times in the last 6 years, they kind of get the gig. You can probably spend a little less time on the listing paperwork and just show them where to sign, because chances are they're not looking to, go over all 23 pages. Is there anything else you would like to share with me about your home? Do you have any questions? Now, what happens next? So we'll talk a little bit about this in the slides, but in a perfect world, what I like to do is a 2-part listing presentation. So I'm going to go and talk with the client, see the house, do this pre-listing dialogue that I just talked to you guys about. We're going to preview the property. I'm going to walk around. I'm going to take some notes. I'm going to take some measurements, take some pictures. And I explained to them up front, when I first look at your property, I can probably give you a range. It's a 200 to 250. It's the 250 to 350, something like that in terms of price. But, and I truly believe this is not just a line to get past the pricing dialogue, is that it's too important a number to just be like, they hold up a finger. Yeah, feels like a 269.9 to me. I mean, even if you have that gut, you really want to go back, look at the data, internalize what you've seen, and make some good comparisons so that you can actually put together something that makes sense rather than just, the HGTV pricing of being like, look around, yeah, 250, oh no, 275, that's nonsense pricing. I mean, there really is nuance, you know what I mean? And anybody that's been in the business a while will tell you, sometimes you got a property on the market. I mean, I'll give you an example from last year. This house had a small fire. My client gutted it down to the studs, spray foam insulation, changed the floor plan, basically built a brand new house, overbuilt the bejesus out of this thing. We had the market at 385. Again, I had recommended being more like 350, 360. His initial offer price to me was 4.25, and I told him there's no freaking way we're putting this thing over 4. I got him to list it at 385, I think was our final price, which I wasn't totally thrilled with, but it was an up market and crazy time, so we stuck it on. Crickets, absolute crickets. We dropped it to 369 and 2 offers in 2 days. So pricing is important. And those are the kind of stories that I'll tell to clients that, this is why I don't give you your price right now. Because for one, if we're talking about listing this thing in 2 months from now, my price may be a little bit different. Now, it's probably going to be plus or minus a few percent of the number that we come up with, but there's other things that drive price other than your particular property. Namely, what's the competition look like? If we've got 15 houses on the same street or in the same, market area or neighborhood, you're going to have to be a little bit more sharply priced than if there's 2 houses on the market. So we have to kind of, look at the data at the time to figure out what that final price is. And quite honestly, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, you don't want to pick your listing agent just because they gave you a price you like. You have to make sure that price is realistic and attainable and works with the timeline that you have. It's great if you can hang tight and maybe get 425, but if you told me that you need to make this thing gone in 2 weeks, we may need to be more like 405, 395, something like that. So again, what I typically tell people is I like to do a 2-step listing process. I'm going to meet, we're going to discuss, take some pictures, walk through the house. I'm going to explain my marketing plan, how I kind of go about approaching bringing properties to the marketplace. Then I'm going to have you guys come into my office and we're going to go over a market analysis. Now, there are times that's different and people want you to just come and price and bang, So again, it goes back to the dialogue. If they say, look, I want this thing on the market. I need you to come over with a sign. I'm ready to, put pen to paper, sign a listing agreement. Don't go into your whole spiel. Be like, all right, perfect. I'll see you Friday at 5:00. Boom, bring the listing paperwork, bring the sign, bring a lockbox, ready to go. Now, I'm not a big fan of doing it that way, but again, we serve the clients, and from everybody who took agency law, remember old car, obedience, loyalty, disclosure, the first one is obedience. So if they tell you to do it, we got to do it, so long as it's legal. So that's all the stuff that I go over. And again, we've been chatting here for 15, 20 minutes while I have nobody on the other end of the phone. Usually this will turn into like a 45-minute dialogue, something like that. And the nice part is, for one, I now know a ton of information that I can use when I'm at the listing presentation. I already kind of know what sort of house I'm looking at before I go do my research on it. But also I've built some rapport with the client. I've spent the last, 30, 40 minutes chatting with them. And then when you show up for the listing presentation, you have a lot less butterflies, a lot less, antsiness and things like that, because it's like showing up and meeting with an old friend. Now, I'll pick on my client that sold the ski house a couple of years ago, which finally closed last year. He was an engineer, Lockheed Martin guy, retired aerospace guy, sweetheart of a dude, but my God, could he talk. And we talked about every minor system of the house and the geothermal heating and the this and the that. And, so when I went over for that listing presentation, I already knew what I was walking into. I knew I was talking to an aerospace engineer, one that actually was chatty, which is not usually a combination you see together a whole lot. But I budgeted the entire afternoon because I figured we'd be there, looking at the heating system for at least an hour. And, you know, when I walked in, it was like, hey, Lloyd, how are you, man? It's great to see you. I've been thinking so much about those newel posts. I had to Google what a newel post was, but man, your newel posts are fantastic. I can't believe how much time you must have spent, you know, and we talked about woodworking and this and that, you know, and if you spend that much time with a client, there's a pretty good chance you're going to walk away with a listing contract. And in that case, it was, you know, I don't know, $800,000 listing. So, you know, pretty good day's work. So I highly recommend the pre-listing interview. And actually, as you drill this, I know, you know, Maggie was talking about getting some other accountability partners to work with. I think that's a great idea. And this is an awesome thing to role play with somebody. You know, go back and forth, you know, 5 times each, you know, block 2 hours out of your afternoon, whenever you can make time. Somebody goes for an hour, somebody else goes for an hour. You know, you play the client, you play the buyer, you play the seller, whatever. This is something you want to drill down. And if you notice, I paraphrase most every question on here. I don't read verbatim, because if you read, especially if you're a little bit nervous, which you will be when you're on your first listing call, you're going to stutter a little bit if you try and read. So just understand the questions that you're going to ask, and ask them in a, you know, a normal dialogue like I'm talking with you guys here. You know, I'm not antsy, I'm relaxed, I'm in an environment that's comfortable for me. I've got my pen and paper ready to go. I'll have these printed out. And now we can go in and actually, you know, put something together. So I'm going to show you guys. Let me stop the share here. Everybody still doing good? Yes? Cool. Let me just check real quick. Do we have anything in the chat box? Questions? Okay, perfect. Yeah, Natalie, I'll send that out with you guys. So I would encourage you, as you do these role plays with each other, take what's in the Seller Advantage Guide from Hannah, take what I just went over with you, and pull the bits and pieces that work for you and make your own questionnaire. You know, my style is going to be totally different than Chuck's style, than Paul's style, than Cheryl's style. You know what I mean? So work with the questions that work for you, and you know, adapt them and make sure that it comes off authentic, because that's the most important thing. Nobody wants to be flip charted. You know what I mean? And if you've ever been through like a bad sales presentation from like a car guy, and they start like pulling out the brochure, and you're like, dude, I know more about this car than you do. Don't say, oh, well, the LTX model has, you know, heated steering wheels. I know. That's why I wanted that model. So take the time to get to know your clients, and put together a questionnaire that will give you so much more ammo. And then when you go to the listing presentation, you know, if they said, I'm big on Zillow, I need a new deck, I got to replace the carpet, I love open houses, I hate the newspaper, you know, I'm like, okay, cool. Well, I've got my marching orders of the things that I'm going to talk about, and or the things that I'm not going to talk about, or say, look, you know, if newspaper advertising isn't important to them, well, we're still going to do a little bit of it, because I find, you know, as an agent, I think it's good for driving open house traffic, and that's pretty much it. The rest of it is just marketing for me and marketing for my company, which, you know, I like to do. But, you know, I'm going to be honest with you, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I've sold over 400 houses. I've probably spent $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 on print advertising in my career. I've never once had somebody call me and say, hey, I saw your ad in the paper, I'd like to buy that house. Not one. And that's a true story. So I do think it helps with brand awareness. I do think it helps drive traffic to the house for open houses, but that's about the extent of what print advertising is going to do. So as you said, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, open houses are an important part of your thing, and you want open houses every weekend until you're sold. We're going to make sure that we do that and do it effectively, so that we can hopefully drive a ton of traffic to your open house and get the thing sold in the next couple of weeks. So what I wanted to go over with you guys now is how to put together all of what we kind of talked about into a cohesive presentation through Hannah Presentations. Remind me, Jen, Maggie, we haven't gone over this yet in Fast Start, or have we?
No, we've just kind of touched on it.
Okay, cool. So I'm going to live demo one start to finish, so you guys can see how I do it and how I've customized mine to work with my listing presentation. It's a lot more concise than what you get right out of the box. I don't like fluff. I hate when people bring fluff to me, and so I don't like to bring it to anybody else. So I only go right into like the meat and potatoes of what I think is important, and I think it works out a little bit better that way. So let's go ahead and get a screen share here, and I will show you how to do a listing presentation in Hannah Presentations. So we're just going to go Hannah. And come down to presentations. If you guys haven't played around or you don't have dashboard access yet, this is all getting recorded so you can go back and watch. We're going to click on Hannah Presentations here, and it will open up through Moxie here in a second. So presentations is an awesome system. It's not just for sellers, although I think it's geared towards that. You can also do buyer presentations as well as buyer tours, or just use kind of the format and, have a few other PDFs that you create in a different program and use like the jacket and some of the other parts of the presentation piece to kind of use as a binder to present. I've used it on commercial property, which doesn't really translate nearly as well to most of the platforms. So I basically just use my resume page, my cover page, a couple of other odds and ends, my marketing plan, and then I uploaded everything custom, and it was really, really nice. So we're gonna I'm gonna move you. I've got all my people on my screen here. Let me move you guys over. There we go. So we're gonna come up here to create new, and we've got some options here. So you can do a buyer presentation. So this would be if you're going to be pricing a property that a buyer's going to make an offer on, a seller presentation, a buyer tour, or a non-listing. So I'm going to go ahead and say seller and click continue. So I've created a custom template, which I'm going to show you how to do here in a second. I would highly encourage you guys to utilize the company's marketing department. Gareth in our region does an amazing job of putting together some custom stuff. The custom things I would recommend that you guys put together are threefold. So a custom cover page, a custom marketing plan, and a custom resume page. And you can kind of make them have like a similar feel, so everything sort of feels cohesive. I like to have all of my marketing sort of under the same motif, kind of like a urban contemporary look is what I always go for, with bringing in some relevance to our area. So that's what that looks like, and I'll show you guys how to do that in just a second. So listing prepared for, I'm just going to do demo for fast start. And you select your MLS source. In this case, it's Ithaca. And give it a sec. Okay, so Moxie's great. So it syncs up with whatever MLS you're using. So I'm gonna, for the sake of this class, just pop over to MLS and grab a listed property. Doesn't really matter which one. Let's see what's on the market today. Anything fun and exciting? One whole residential listing. There we go, over on Lexington Drive. So 122 Lexington. So I'm just going to copy the ML number here, 403642. Watch this, 403642. Copy. It does its thing. So what it's doing right now is it's actually linked up to the MLS, and it's going to draw all of that information right into Hannah Presentations, which is super nice. So it pulls in the picture. Now, if you're doing this on a property that hasn't been listed before or hasn't been listed recently, you can do things manually and go ahead and type in, address, street, city, zip, state, school district, beds, baths, footage, all of that fun stuff. And what I usually do is I go to the tax record, and I will, right click and save a picture from the tax record. And then I'll come over here, browse, and then upload that picture of the house. On our assessment website, we've always got really old kind of like vintage pictures. So it's kind of fun when you put a picture up there when they're, before they painted the house and they got the, the old 1996 Chevy Blazer in the driveway. People always get a chuckle out of it. As a side note, if you can make your clients laugh, you've got the listing. More than, they don't want to be laughing at you, but like if you can, crack a few jokes and get them to smile and kind of have a good time, there's a good shot you're going to win their business. So again, if you don't have it listed before, you're going to fill in as much information as you can and click on continue. So two options here. And we don't have a whole lot of inventory right now. So this is going to make some suggestions of properties to use for comparables. I'm not a huge fan of using this system to look for comps. I like to go direct from the MLS, and I think it's just as easy to do it that way. So let me go back here and I'll talk a little bit about. So we're looking at
Kyle, I'm sorry. Can you tell me why you prefer the MLS? It's Doris.
it just occasionally presentations won't pick something up. So it depends a little bit on how your MLS displays things. Like we have certain statuses that don't sync up exactly with presentations. Like we've got sold comparable as a field, and I don't think that that pulls in. So that would be like a for sale by owner that somebody sold as an agent. So it depends a little bit on your MLS. Our MLS is small and weird. So I'm sure the bigger MLSs are a little bit smoother if you're using like a matrix product, but I think it's kind of a quirky place. So of course we had to have a quirky MLS system.
That's okay.
Yeah, great question though. So we're looking roughly for a 2,400 square foot house that is 4 bedrooms, 2.5 baths. And this is in an area of Ithaca called the Northeast, which is an elementary school boundary area. So I'm just going to come over here and do a standard search. Obviously I'm using Rapatoni, so if you guys are on different systems, it'll look a little bit different. But I'm going to search active, under contract, and sold within the last year. And we're going to come down here to elementary school and Northeast. Now, if you're newer and you don't really know where things are or where the boundaries or school boundaries are, you may have to do a little bit more research, or maybe, you know, check in with your office manager, your sales manager, or a colleague that you have that works in your office, you know, find out a little bit more nuance about it. But for the sake of this, it's pretty straightforward and simple. So we've got 37 things to look at. Obviously, this is the property itself. Here's one over on Sanctuary Drive. And as you can see right here, I mean, this is something that I would have as a talking point for the client. Well, there's only one house on the market right now that's a single family. So we can probably be pretty aggressive with the price because there's nothing on the market right now. And what do we see here? Okay, we've got 3 properties that are under contract. These ones are kind of smaller, so I'm not going to include those in my market analysis. So again, we were looking for what? 2,400 square foot, 2-story colonial. So I'm going to scroll down and see what I can find with regard to that. So 2,000, 2,100. Now we're getting up into 2,500, which is great, but those are condos, so that's not going to work very well. Here's one over on Blackstone. There's one over on Briarwood. Now I happen to know this was a duplex, so I'm not going to include that one. So we want to compare apples to apples. This was one, here's a 5-bedroom, 3 full bath at 2,800 square feet. We'll pull that over. A little light on the square footage. This was a house I sold last year. I'm skipping over the ranches. I'm skipping over the 2-story, or the split levels if possible. Here's one on Lexington. So again, if our subject property is on Lexington, even if it isn't a good comp for the house, I'll usually include it because chances are the seller is going to know that the property was sold and want to know a little bit more about it. So even if it was a 3-bed, 1-bath that sold for $250, I'm still probably going to put that in the analysis, not to really use as a basis for comparison, but just to kind of educate them as to what's going on in the marketplace. And I think that's pretty good. So I'm going to filter these down and take one last look at them. So I'm going to filter by checked only. Again, if you're not on Rapatoni, this will be, there we go. So now I've got my one-liner list. What I'm looking for in a perfect world with a CMA is 3 active listings that are comparable to the subject property, 3 under contract listings that are comparable to the subject property, and 3 sold listings that are comparable to the subject property. If I've got those 3, I mean, that's kind of a ideal scenario. Now, oftentimes it might only be, 2 things on the market, 1 under contract, and 5 sold. Okay, well, I'm going to pick the 3 best sold, and then, we'll have a dialogue about the current state of the market and the lack of inventory, which is a good thing when you're going into a listing presentation. So all we have to do here is copy over our MLS numbers into HANA presentations. So I'm going to line these screens up kind of side by side here. And so this, what I'm doing right now is actually what I would be doing if we were doing a listing presentation. So just a quick note, if you're using MLS, you're gonna have to come over here and change this to MLS number, not location. See where I'm at right here in the middle of the screen. So change that to MLS number, and then you can just put in comma separated value MLS numbers. So I'm gonna copy this number here, comma space the next one. So 401, 630, 401, 689, 402, 022, 402, 225, 402, 933, and 403, 588. And I'm going to click on search. And look at that. It populated everything that we got. So here's, if you're taking notes, put a little asterisk to remember this. Most agents make this mistake in presentations is they don't actually check these properties. So what we did is we just searched them and displayed them, but we didn't actually include them in the presentation yet. So there's a little button right here. If you're looking at my screen, include all. You can see how that checks each one of these. Or if you don't have that checked, you can go through manually and click on each one that you want to include. Maybe there's one that you want to leave off. Let's scroll down here and see. And, you know, actually, Sanctuary Drive is a big duplex, so I'm going to leave that off of there too, because I don't want to compare a duplex to a single family if I can help it. So, but that is my only active property. So, you know what? I'm going to leave it in because, again, I want to speak to what's going on in the market, and I would like to say to a seller, look, you've got the only single family house going on the market right now. If somebody wants a 4-bed, 2.5 bath in a great school district, you're kind of the only game in town. So we can probably put a little bit of a premium price on this property and a hardcore marketing plan and get this thing sold quick. So we got all of our properties checked, and then come on down to continue. Now, the cool thing about HANA presentations, I'll show you this real quick. Let's say you're moving around. I got my windows open and, oh, shoot, I just closed the window. Gosh, did I lose everything? Nope. HANA presentation saves it in real time as you go. So if you make a mistake or your computer shuts down, don't worry. You can get right back to where you were. All I did was go back to presentations, and here we are. And here's your navigations over here. So if you come over here to the little pencil tool, that'll allow you to pick up right where you left off. Boom, there we are. I've still got all of my listings that we pulled. And we're going to move on to the estimate. So a lot of times what I'll do is I'll actually, at this point, leave this blank and go over here to view and actually print out the CMA. And I'll look at, you know, a lot of the data, and I'll look at the pictures, and I'll look at the price per square foot and the list sold ratios and the list assessed ratios and things like that, and come up with what I think is a reasonable figure for a property. And I always say this to sellers, you know, first of all, real estate is not an exact science. So I'm making a recommendation here. I always say the last 3 to 5% of any deal is how bad does a buyer want to buy and how bad does a seller want to sell. And those are situational. So I'm never going to be able to say this property is worth exactly $475. You know, if there's a desperate buyer out there, might they pay $485 for it? Yeah, probably. If the seller is super desperate, they've lost their job, they can't make their mortgage payments, would they probably take $450 even though they wouldn't like to? Yeah, probably. So I'm going to create a range. I usually do like a 5% range, give or take, depending on the price point. Create range. And I'm going to go in here and say, let's do 459.9 to 479.9, something like that. Apply. Then I'm going to come down here. I usually put in something to the effect of, you know, based on current market conditions, the overall shape of the house, and current interest rates, I suggest a listing price of, and then you can kind of call the ball right there. You know, if I had my druthers, I'd put it on at 465 or whatever the case might be. And you've got some averages and things like that. So on average, the solds were at $161 a foot. So again, pull out our old Casio calculator. So 161 bucks a foot times the subject property square footage, which is 2436. Here's my 6, equals about 392. So if I'm happy with that, I'm going to go ahead and click continue. Now, sometimes I find it's helpful, and this is great where you have an accountability partner, to actually run it by them or run it by your office manager or somebody who's successful and works in that neighborhood a lot. You have to be a little bit careful not to breach fiduciary, duty and confidentiality. But, if you're talking with your sales manager or talking with your general manager, myself, whomever, bounce some things off of them. A lot of times you might go back and you might refine that pricing just a little bit. It's just helpful to talk through. And that's why I say to sellers, I'm not just going to like price your house on the spot with just a hip shot. Let's put it on at 475 or 485, because you really want to like dig in and look at the current inventory, look what's under contract, look where the market's going, understand where the market outlook is, understand what time of year we're putting the property on the market. Because all of those things factor into, how we're going to price a property. One of the interesting things is, right now, we haven't really started spring market yet. So, if your property is going to come on a little bit husky in the price tag, I'd much rather it be coming on now than say end of August, mid-September. You know what I mean? Right now, there's still plenty of selling season. We got all the selling season left. So, if we're 5%, 7% high, I'm not that worried about it. I'd rather secure the listing, get the thing on the market. And, if we do need to make a price correction at some point, we still have plenty of selling season to get the property sold. That's a different dialogue than I would have with somebody if we're sitting there at September 15th. Right now, I'm okay with playing a little bit of games. Let's see if we can get you the most amount of money we can. I'm all right. Well, let's gamble a little bit within reason. If we're in September, hey, you know what, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, the market's kind of coming down now, not necessarily in price, but in terms of number of contracts getting accepted per month. What you don't want to do is have the market here, your price a little bit above the market, and then the market starts to come down, and then your price starts to come down, and you're like chasing the market. Then you got to make those big price adjustments to get it to the right price. I'd rather just price it well and get the thing sold for you right in the, the tail end of busy season. So depending on the time of year, I may have different recommendations about, pricing strategy. But just so everybody's aware, when I take a listing, my goal is to sell it in the first 2 weeks, period, end of story. It doesn't always happen that way, but that's my goal. That's where all of my marketing is going to be geared for. And that's where I think you can also win some brownie points with the seller, because a lot of people are like, well, let's do a 90-day marketing plan. Let's do a 6-month marketing plan. Like 6 months, Jesus, sell the thing. Who wants to? I mean, there's for those of you taking Buffini, you'll kind of smile, but there's sort of like the time on the market versus love meter with the seller. So like at day 0, the client loves you. You're super excited. You're super jazzed. They're excited. There's a sign going in the yard. Things are happening. Brochures are getting dropped off. Postcards are going out. Everything's popping. And then you don't have any showings for a couple of weeks. And then, the joy of their realtor becomes less and less, and your novelty becomes less and less exciting, and their confidence in you becomes less and less great. And they start thinking, oh, what if we don't sell, and all this type of thing. So again, when I come in, yeah, I'm trying to get you under contract in the next 2 weeks. That's what my marketing plan is designed to do. And in my mind, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, and for those of you taking notes, if I want to write this one down, I use this all the freaking time. Jamie can back me up, because actually Jamie was a former client of mine who I sold a house and helped buy a house a couple of years ago. There are 3 things that you can do to sell a piece of property, or 3 dials you can turn, so to speak. And I do this all the time: price, condition, marketing. My job as your agent to make sure that we turn that marketing dial up to 10. The condition and the price, that's 100% in the seller's corner. So if something's not selling, there's a pricing problem, there's a condition problem, or there's a marketing problem. So it's pretty easy to figure out which one it is when you kind of think about it simply like that. So look at it. Does it have nice pictures? Does it have a 3D tour? Does it have a video? Does it have advertising going on? Are they doing, do they have good signage? Can you see the signage? All of those kind of things. If so, it's probably not a marketing issue. That leaves price or condition. So, like when we're talking about Maggie's house, maybe we do need to rip out that carpet that's that 3-inch, avocado green shag, or maybe we do need to take that deck off that's just falling off and we'll put on a little deck. It's okay. I'd rather have a nice brand new shiny deck that's quarter the size of the old crappy one that's falling apart that has heaving posts and things like that. So again, price, condition, marketing. My job is to make sure that marketing's turned up to 10 or above. And you're going to be in control, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, of the condition and the price. So this is your preview page here. So this is where you can rearrange your presentation. So like if I like to have the listing overview before the listing map, I can just drag and drop and it will rearrange it for me. So on and so forth. You can also add in any custom pages that you like. So this is the screen. If you have Gareth do, let me just show you what this looks like. It'll take a second to generate, but when Gareth does your custom cover page, so mine's just kind of like a pretty picture that I took at a local park here, and then I've got like a little nameplate and my office address, cell phone number, my website, picture, things like that. So just a nice, attractive, stylish jacket. And again, I try and make that match a lot of the marketing that I do, which, I try and market as just sort of, clean, no nonsense, streamlined, attractive and classy marketing. And our PDF is generating as we speak. Come on, baby. All right, well, it's doing that. I'll show you a few other things. So when you want to add a page, come over here to this little add page with the plus button. Now here's where you have options. You can either create new or add from library. I'm going to go ahead and add from library, and you will find there are a lot of things that you can put in your presentation or take out. So my total count for pages is 17 pages. Now I have 40 in my crawl that sometimes I'll move things in and out, and there's 179 pages total from the brokerage. So if you want a page, they've got a page. I would encourage you guys to go in, find some stats from your area, go through every single one of them and find ones that you think would be ones that you'd want to have a dialogue about. If you don't want to talk about it, don't put it in the presentation. Or if there's some fluffy stuff, I might put it in the back, like the, 27 tips to help stage your house better, or what to do, when a showing appointment's made, things like that. I'm going to go over them probably anyways, but those types of things I don't like to spend a ton of time on unless I know that's something that the seller's, really looking for. So if you want to add a page, it's very, very easy. You just click on the add button and it goes right in. So these are all the pages that I've added, and that's how you add stuff. So pretty nice. So if we come back to pages, if we go to add page and then create new, this is where you can upload that custom page from Gareth or from whomever is your marketing service rep. So I'm going to go over here and just say upload pages, and then you can go and upload them from your desktop or your downloads or wherever. The nice part is you can get all that design work done. They'll email it to you, and then you can upload it here. And then once you have it, I would spend, an hour going back and forth, clicking on the preview, going through it, coming back here, moving things around, and really dialing in how you want that conversation to go step by step. And when you have it all set the way you like, here's where you can say save as template. So I always give it a custom title. I usually do a new one every year. So again, we're working off a Seller Template 2020. Things change year to year. Programs get added, programs get taken away. So you want to make sure that you're up to date and talking about whatever the latest and greatest is. So I might title this, Seller Template 2021 or whatever you want to do. I'm not actually going to save it because I haven't done the updates yet. But that's the way that you upload custom pages, and so on and so forth. Let's see if our PDF was created here. Here we go. So one of the reasons that my screen says it's 47 pages long is I include all the additional photos of all of the comps. So the vast majority of that 47 pages are just picture pages, because as I'm talking about these different listings with the seller, I want to show them, this was a 4-bed, 3-bath house over on Burley Drive, had an updated kitchen, as you can see here, and then I'm pointing to the pictures and and going through all of that. So let me just scroll through, and I want to show you a couple of things that I really like about the HANA presentation platform. And I've used a lot of different CMA programs. It really is, no BS. It's a great program, really classy reports, and I like them. So if you guys were my listing presentation, I would get into, here's our first comparable. Now we've only got one active piece of inventory on the market right now in the Northeast. This one happens to be a 6-bed, 4 full bath, 2 half bath. Now, how that actually lays out is it's got a 2-bedroom, 2-bath apartment, and then a 4-bedroom, 3-bath house. It's 3,600 square feet, sitting on a 1/3 of an acre lot up there in Sapsucker Woods. Again, not really comparable for your property, but I wanted to show you what's available on the market today. If you're a buyer that wants Northeast schools, this is the only thing you have to look at, and potentially your house, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. And then if they have questions or whatever, we'll dive into those and I'll answer them. So we go through, again, a lot of these are going to be the picture pages. We'll talk about each one. I usually will spend minimal time on the properties that are sort of supporting characters. And then I'll spend a lot more time on properties that are most relevant to the conversation. So I probably spend a fair amount of time talking about this particular listing over on Randolph. Had a beautiful updated cherry kitchen, nice 2-story house with an addition, big master suite, covered deck, nice patio, custom cabinetry, big yard, blah, blah, blah. As we're talking about our pricing dialogue. So I'm going to skip through these. We're not going to go through all of these houses with you guys, but you kind of get the idea of how I would actually have that dialogue with a seller. It's not a bad idea. Here's your pro tip of the day. Go on the county's assessment website or tax record and write down the last name of the seller who sold it. Because a lot of times the sellers would be like, oh, is that the Johnson's house? Oh, is that the Stevenson's house? Oh, that was Mary and Tom's house, right? And even if you have no idea who the Stevensons or the Johnsons or Mary and Tom are, it's easy to say, oh yeah, that was John and Steve's house, or oh yeah, that was Sally's house, or oh yeah, that was the Johnson's place. Whatever the case might be. Sorry, I'm getting 2 new garage doors hooked up and they just texted me that one isn't working. So that's always fun. We'll deal with that in a little bit. Okay, so getting down to, so this is a great page, the side-by-side comparison, because this actually shows here in this column the subject property and then how it stacks up, beds, baths, footage, acreage, year built, so on and so forth next to each property. So it really gives you a good dialogue that you can talk with people about. Sorry, my computer's scroll rate is a little slow here. This is kind of a cool sheet. It groups everything together by active, pending, and sold status. So you can kind of see what the averages were for active versus sold. This is kind of a fun heat map that I have in there, which actually shows your percentage of your Zestimate, which is a page that's available from the HANA pages there. So on average, Zillow was 2% above what the value of the house was. Surprise, surprise, the house is worth more on Zillow than it is in the real world. So here's our price analysis page. Now this is the page that like the seller's been waiting on bated breath to get to. So depending on who your seller is and how anxious they are, this is where we'd have that dialogue. And this is that time where you're going to feel a little bit of nerves and things like that. And this is where you can draw on all of those things that you learned about the client, learned about their pricing, learned about, what their motivations are. And we can talk a little bit about this range pricing here. So, $459 to $479, that's a lot of money. That's 20 grand. So why would we price at $459 versus $479? Well, a lot of it's going to be, again, based on what their motivations are that they've already told you. So they want to get the heck out of Dodge. We're sitting here in July and they want to be moved by winter. They don't want to see snow ever again. We may want to price at the more aggressive end of that value range. If they're saying, look, we're sitting here right now in February 1st, I want to get it sold this year, but, I'd like to try a little higher price, see if we can't get a little premium. I think the house is worth it. Okay, cool. Maybe we'll put it on at 479, see how it goes. And we still have plenty of selling season if we do need to make an adjustment later on down the road. Now, the next page, I believe, is my marketing page. Yeah. So this is where I spend the vast majority of my time. So if you want to say this is where I sell, this is where I sell. So some of these things I've explained kind of as we've been chatting, but I will spend a good amount of time going through each one of these line by line with a seller. So this is basically what they're hiring you to do. So yes, we're going to put a price on the property. Yes, we're going to do all the standard stuff, but you're basically hiring a professional negotiator and a professional marketer to help you get this property sold. So I'm a big proponent of taking time with all this stuff, using professional equipment or hiring professionals to make sure you have the best quality results. So first thing that we're going to do after we've, decided to work together is we're going to walk through and stage the property and, put away any items that we don't want to have out. So, you take down all the family photos, you clear off the refrigerator, you take down all the magnets, you put away the religious artifacts, you take down the deer heads. And it's not that I don't love Jesus or deer hunting or anything else. It's that there are buyers out there that don't. And, we don't really care what their political beliefs are, their religious beliefs are. We just want to get your house sold for the most amount of money. And we don't want somebody running away because they've got some weird phobia that if there's a dead deer head in the house is now haunted by deer or something like that. And believe me, people are crazy. So buyers have bought for less reasonable reasons. One of the other things, and this is a note for, forgive me, I forget your name, that has the son that's going to be getting in the business. This is how I used to compete with people who were in the business for years, is I said, I'm a professional photographer. It was something that I love to do in my personal time anyways, and it kind of translates well into real estate. So I take a very high degree of control over the marketing of your property because I do everything in-house. So as a professional photographer, I'm going to take the time to make sure your property is presented in the best light possible. Namely because I think it's a pretty simple process to selling. The better you look online, the more inquiries we're going to get, hopefully to myself. And we'll talk a little bit about my relationships with Realtor.com and some of the other websites. But inquiries lead to showings, showings lead to offers. And the more that you have of each, the more likely you are to get an offer that you can work with. So I spend a lot of time making sure that your house is staged well and photographed professionally so that it looks the best that it possibly can, because I think there's direct correlation between how good do you look online and how many showings you get. And how many showings you get means how many offers you get. In addition, I'm a licensed drone pilot, so I'm going to take some aerial photography of things. Now, when I'm getting to this point in the dialogue, I always bring a folder with me of some previous marketing that I've done. So when I say, cue the word drone photography, I'm going to say, and we take aerial pictures of your building so we can show, not only what does the property look like, but its, proximity to the lake and its location. We can also do some neat, geofencing stuff with the land, so I can actually show you where the property lines are and, where it is and where it sits. Very, very handy tool. We do some seasonally appropriate marketing, things like that. I also, this year, or last year rather, invested in a 3D camera, and that's when I'll queue up. I'll bring an iPad with me, and I'll actually have a Matterport tour preloaded into the system so that I can just go through and show them. If I'm on the internet, I might go and go to, I think this is linked up. Let me see. Yep. So another pro tip, buy a bunch of cheap domain names on GoDaddy, and then you can link up different things to them so you can have a custom website for the marketing. So this one happened to be a property I sold over on Janivar, but I'll actually go through and demo in real time what I mean by 3D. So this has become a great marketing tool for COVID because I say, look, the way people are shopping for houses now, we might have, let's say the wife just got a great job at Cornell and the husband's home with the kids in California. This way, when we have a full 3D setup, the wife can take a look at the house, but she can also send the 3D floor plan to her husband. So as she's walking through the house, he can be virtually walking through the house, or they can have a dialogue about the house later on. And I show them, kind of some of the flashy stuff that Matterport does. So I say, you guys have heard of, a floor plan, right? Well, of course we've got floor plans and they're, animated with your stuff, and that's pretty cool, right? Well, I take it to another level and we go full 3D, and we've got a dollhouse of your property so that you can actually see, in full 3D what the property actually looks like. And this is what I'm actually doing at the listing presentation. And you start to see people like get a little bit more engaged. They're like, wow, that's pretty cool. Like that's sexy. Like I think we get that. And I've actually had people say this, you do all of that for the commission you were talking about? And I'm like, yes, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, here's a pen, press hard. The listing agreement is coming forth. So that's a big part of my sell, but a lot of it is actually bringing stuff to the table. People want to hold a brochure in their hand. So I'm going to, physically bring my my marketing stuff to them and say, this is what the brochure looks like that I make. This is how I present a property. This happens to be my commercial folder. So there's a bunch of commercial building stuff in here, but try and bring stuff that's relevant. Now, if you're newer and you haven't had any listings, or if you haven't had any listings in this price point or this area, go talk with somebody in the company. Maybe they'll let you bring one of their brochures with them to say, this is the type of marketing my company does for properties like these. So it doesn't necessarily matter if you don't have the experience yourself. Chances are the company's got some resources that they can work with so that you can bring some stuff to the table. And again, physically hand them out and talk about the importance. So here's what's going to happen the first week, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. Well, obviously we're going to put a for sale sign in the yard, and I'm going to, I have a picture of our for sale signs, and I'm going to talk about, why our signs are better. We've got the big, post signs with the, the nice hanging sort of flag looking signposts. They stick out. They're very prominent. They're above the hedges. They withstand weather and everything else. I'm going to input the data that we've just collected here into the multiple listings service. I'm going to upload it to howardhanna.com, ZillowTrulyRealtor.com, and numerous other syndicated websites. We're going to send out 50 just listed postcards. So this is a neat thing. And again, when I queue up 50 postcards, what do I whip out? My example of a couple of postcards that I've sent out. And I'm actually making them, touch them, and they're looking at them like, oh yeah, this is nice. This is great. What's this all about? Oh, well, this is what's called a QR code, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. Remember how I said, it's a tech savvy world we're living in here. So watch this, take a picture of it, and 10 seconds later, boom, I just got a text message on my cell phone that somebody just checked the value of the property or inquired about the property based on this flyer. And that gives me an opportunity to check in with them, follow up, maybe see what's going on with their house. Maybe they have a colleague that they want to bring to the neighborhood. So we want to really, create a marketing blanket around your house. And so we do so digitally, but also.
I have a quick question.
Yeah, what's up?
Can you just take a step back? When you said that you had that just listed postcard, you took a picture and then I lost you after that. What did you say? I just wanted to grab your point.
Yeah. So I like to actually show them how the technology works, whether it's with the just listed postcards or whether it's with text to video. So again, when we're talking about our signage, we have text to video codes. So a prospective buyer that drives by, it's great if you have like a little sign jockey and they can take a brochure or whatever, but I won't know that somebody did that unless I have like a camera on their car and I'm going to go Google their license plate. I'm not going to be able to follow up with them. With our technology, your listing agent's going to get a text message that says, so-and-so from this phone number just inquired about this house. That'll give me an opportunity. Again, it's all about lead generation on the house. The more leads we get, the more showings we get, the more showings we get, the more offers we get. So I can actually follow up on those leads, whether it be from a just listed postcard, whether it be from an ad in the paper, whether it be from a text to video code. And I'll actually show them, on my text to video code on my phone, here's all the leads that I got on this house over here, just from sign calls. Again, depending on where we're at with COVID, this may be different, but I usually host a broker's open house. I invite all the local brokers over and we'll do, usually like a coffee and bagels and, muffins and things like that, put on a nice little spread. Sometimes I'll do like mimosas or something like that if the sellers are cool. I think I did that at Jamie's house. I think Jamie came home early on that one too, if I'm not mistaken.
Hey, Kyle, you've got like 4 minutes.
I'm almost done with my presentation.
I knew you were.
I'm going to launch the social media campaign. So again, we're going to put you on Facebook. We're going to do boosted posts on Facebook, boosted posts on Instagram so that you have some buzz going on socially. We're going to put you on all of the real estate sites, the Craigslist and things like that as well. And then, as we said before, you're big on open houses. You wanted that Saturday, Sunday open house, Maggie. Well, here we are right here. Saturday and Sunday open house. We're going to blast that marketing on social. We're going to blast the marketing in the newspaper. We're going to put up signs. We're going to send out postcards. We're going to be texting. We're going to be emailing. We're going to be creating a lot of excitement about this property again, because I want to get your house sold in the next or the first couple of weeks we're on the market. And then ongoing, we're going to be showing the house to prospects, giving feedback to the seller, reporting on changes in the inventory, and hopefully obtaining an offer on your property as soon as possible. So after we go through all of that, I'm going to check in with them. Do you have any questions? Answer any questions that they have. And at this point, it's pen time. So if you don't have any questions, I've got all the paperwork ready, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. Would you like to go ahead and sign it? We can get going on this. I've got availability Tuesday to do a photo shoot, and it looks like it's going to be a beautiful day. We can get some sun on the front of the house, get this thing on the market, and get it sold for you. Go for the hard close. If they say no, or we want to think about it, cool. That's a great time to pull out your Buffiniism, grab a quick card, which again, shameless plug for marketing department, custom postcard, again, matching the cover page of my my presentation here. I'll show you. I'm not lying. So same picture, everything kind of matches up. I'd pop them a quick card in the mail. Dear Sally and Steve, it was great. I appreciate you taking the time to have me over to your house. I'd love to work with you on getting it sold. Let me know if you have any questions. I'd be happy to help. Drop this in their mailbox or what have you. Follow up, and that's how I deal with the securing a listing and doing a listing presentation. And I think we got finished 1 minute before I'm supposed to be done. So if anybody has any questions, we can check the chat box, and I'm happy to go over anything that I just went over for the last little bit. And
I think they're pretty good. Does anybody have any last questions for Kyle once he signs off? Kyle's email is kylesteele@howardhanna.com. Anybody wants to reach out to Kyle specifically?
Thank you, Kyle.
Thank you, Kyle. That was a ton.
Very helpful.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
very
Feel free
much.
to, yeah, like I said, cell phone number 607-342-2148. Check out ithacaproperties.com. You can come find me, and please feel free to use me as a resource. I'm happy to, go over anything. I can show you any of the tech stuff that I have. Good investments, whether you're spending $1,000 or $100. Marketing dollars are tough. Video is huge. I would highly recommend everybody get a gimbal cam. They cost like $100, maybe $75 on Amazon. You can do some really nice video stuff. And if you want to talk about drones, 3D, any of that kind of stuff, I love tech. So feel free to reach out, and I'm happy to give you some feedback.
Great.
Thank you so much. You guys
All right.
need a
Take care,
5-minute
everybody.
break, and then when you get back, Jay will help us out with a listing presentation simulation. So that should be fun. And he has a lot of energy. It's great. So 5 minutes, back in your
Yeah,
seats.
Jay's here, but we're going to take a 5-minute break. So we will. Hi, Jay.
Hi, Jay.
So we'll be back in the saddle at 3:05.
Sorry, Jay. They've been in their seats since 12:30, so gotta get them to move. Thank you.
So Maggie and Jen,
Hi, Jay.
hi. I have two cameras currently running. One should be under Jeremy
I see that.
and the other one is me. So I figure because this is supposed to be more of just a listing, like a presentation simulation, correct?
Yeah.
Perfect. So this way, I'm going to run the J Grow camera as the, I will peek over here and give the insides, and then the Jeremy Grow camera will run as the overall listing presentation camera. That will show both of us at all times. And should be pretty
That's
good.
fabulous. Yeah.
Yeah, you're technologically so far ahead of Maggie and I combined.
Yeah, but I don't have anywhere near as cool a space that I am in as you do, Jen. That room looks gorgeous.
Isn't it a pretty room?
Thanks. This was, we bought this house, we downsized, and we're like, oh, we need a home office. That was a year and a half ago. Who knew I'd be living in this room?
You would literally, it looks very calming. Like I like that color. Your artwork is all very very neutral and tasteful. Everything looks just, soothing.
Thank you. Well, thank you. And as your camera came on, I'm like, oh, look at that beautiful brick. I love that mantle and the brick.
Yes, I'm at our office, which is in a 1920s brick building.
Lovely.
Town of New Hartford. So it's quite a lovely traditional office.
Yep. Excellent.
Well, I'm sitting in my basement office with a white wall and a Bowflex behind me. So I have a virtual background.
There you go. That works too.
Hey, I'm just glad it does work, that we can still talk to our agents and see their faces. And
exactly.
I'm so glad that the pandemic came at a time when technology allowed us to interact.
Well, yeah, we have said, Jay, more than once that the education department at Howard Hanna has made a whole lot of lemonade out of the lemons we were given. Absolutely. To be able to do this, with folks like you and Kyle and Mark Ray, and it's been fabulous.
I love me some Mark Ray. Did he talk about personality styles?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That's one of my favorite topics to listen to him about. He's so knowledgeable in that.
Yes.
Well, and it's obviously he's so excited to share it, so it makes it fun to hear it.
So Jay, I'm going to have you introduce yourself, tell everybody a little bit about yourself, and let you run. Maggie and I will both be here. Let us know what you need from us.
Okay. Very good, very good. All right, so thank you so much, Jen and Maggie, for having me on board. Hi, guys. I hope you are all having an absolutely awesome training. My name is Jay Groh. I am a HOHA agent up in the Utica, New Hartford office. For those, I don't know where everybody's New York State, right, Jen and Maggie? Everybody's New York State, but from all over the state? All right, so fantastic. It's so nice to virtually see you all today. It is, I know people are sick and tired of Zoom, but I have to say, I love it because I am one of those types of people that thrives on visual contact with people. So even though I can't be in person with you jumping all around like the insane Lebanese man that I am, and entertaining you with my general antics, I am so happy to see you and so glad that you've taken the time out of your probably busy day to spend some time learning about how to list properties. And Jen and Maggie, can you just give me a quick synopsis of what they've seen so far?
What they have seen so far. They have done everything from Howard Hanna exclusive programs, differentiators, how to work with buyers, how to work with sellers.
Wow.
Most of our tools
today. So what did I follow? Because I wasn't.
Oh, you've been following. Today is all about the seller interview and get preparing for the listing presentation.
Okay. So folks, I will go ahead and share with you my actual listing presentation. So I have co-opted my poor assistant into acting as the seller for our brief listing presentation today. So he's a good sport and he's going to play along with us. We do have two kind of camera angles on the listing presentation, so you can see kind of how our body language interacts. We are sort of keeping this to a very simple version of what our listing presentation is, only because we do not have a third person to man the camera and follow me around as we go through a listing presentation. But what I hope to provide you guys with are some great tips and tools for effectively giving a listing presentation. I am an agent of 14 years. At my peak, we were selling 22 million a year. Normal production is between 10 and 15 million. I do have a tiny team. I have a great executive assistant, also known as my little brother. Woohoo, keep it in the family. And I have one awesome buyer's agent named Alex. He is a plucky 22-year-old whippersnapper. I have been doing this since I was 21 years old myself. Now I'm in my mid-30s and getting a little old, but I love what I do. I kick butt at it, and I have an average win rate at my listings of 78%, which I believe is about what's considered average in our market. But I do kind of duke it out with with the best agents in my marketplace. So, okay, if I just launch right into it, Maggie and Jen. All right, sweet. So here we go, folks. Buckle your safety belts. Hold on tight. We're just going to go ahead and launch right into the listing presentation. If at any point you have any questions, please do not think that you're interrupting. I could literally do this in my sleep, and I can pick up at any given point. So if you have a question about something or are questioning what I'm doing, because a lot of what I'm doing is not stuff that you're going to see in normal listing presentations, by all means, interrupt me and let's just go ahead and keep this going. So Jeremy, come on over. You're going to have you join us. Unfortunately, my camera phone is currently kind of kicking the bucket. So we're going to go ahead and pretty strongly on the two of us right here. So Jeremy, say hi. Hello. All right. So folks, what I want you to imagine first off is that I am not in the room right now. So we have to be a little imaginative here. So, you ready, Jeremy? Sure. Can you tell he's very enthusiastic about me co-opting him for this job today? Yes. Doris is like, yes, I can see that. All right, so I'm at the door right now. I've arrived between 5 and 10 minutes early for the listing. Why do I do that? For the following reason. Why? Because realtors are consistently what? Late. It's like you've worked with me forever. Yes, realtors are consistently late. I do not want you to be late for your listing appointment. I don't care how busy you are. Budget yourself 20 minutes to 30 minutes extra of travel time, so that you can show up between 10 and 5 minutes early. So here we go. Knock, 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 knock. Hello. Hi, Jeremy. How are you? I'm doing well. How about yourself? I'm Jay. It's so nice to meet you after knowing you for the last 30 years of your birth. We're gonna try and get through this without laughing at ourselves hysterically. But so Jeremy, thank you so much for giving me a call today. I really, really appreciate it. And I'm so glad that Jared hooked us up. I mean, it was super fun dealing with him on the sale of his house and his purchase of his house. And I know he told you a lot about it, right? It went really well from what I heard. Yeah, it completely did. So it is currently 3:12. I know that I was scheduled to come at 3:20. So you got some time for me? Fine. Yeah. All right, fantastic. So let's go ahead. Do you mind if we have a seat at the kitchen table? No, we're seated. All right. Here we are, and we're already seated. Like I said, we're just gonna act through this with Jeremy. All right. So Jeremy, again, thank you so much for giving us a call today. I am very, very excited to be here. I'm also very well prepared, as evidenced by the fact that I have to other side of the table. Reach across the table to get my listing presentation. So folks, I'll always bring my listing presentation both electronically. So I've got my iPad here. Eek. It's soaking wet because immediately prior to our Zoom meeting, Jeremy decided that he would spill a can of San Pellegrino all over the iPad. So it's currently soaking wet and drying and sticky as HE double hockey sticks, but we're gonna work with it anyway. So I'll bring my presentation all set to go on my iPad, and I will also bring a paper copy of it. So I've been in the business long enough to tell you being old school and new school is great. I love having my old school stuff on paper, okay, because it gives you something to leave with them. And I love having my presentation on my iPad because it makes me look like a cool dude. And I am not at all cool. So, no, not at all. He's not getting a paycheck this week, so it's all good. So, Jeremy, thank you so much again for giving me this little bit of time. Now, our purpose today is to determine if we want to work together, right? Like, what's your plans? What are you thinking about doing?
I'm trying to get out of my multifamily. I'm trying to get to a single family.
Okay, so you've got a multifamily now. This is obviously a nice 3-unit. Yeah. And you want to go into a single family.
Yep.
Why?
Because I'm tired of hearing upstairs neighbors.
Oh, so you've got upstairs neighbors. They're a little noisy. And so what's not you and Michelle, right?
Yep, the girl from Michelle.
So what's yours and Michelle's goal? You want to get yourselves into a single family. It's going to be a little more
More land, more private,
More land,
not a fishbowl.
more private, not a fishbowl. Okay, good. And basically, when do you want all of this to take place?
In the next couple months, probably.
Okay, so you're thinking you'd like to move within the next couple of months. So we'll ask a series of leading questions just to kind of get him talking and to find out his motivation for actually getting out of the property. So Jeremy's backstory is that he has a 3-unit that he currently lives in with his girlfriend, Michelle. It is an absolutely stunning unit. He's renovated it top to bottom. And prior to this listing appointment, I had already asked him, tell me a little bit about the things that you've done to your property. And from that, I learned that he's very, very, very proud of the work that he did to the property. He bought the property 3 years ago. And when he purchased it, the apartment that he lived in had been was nasty, had been owned by a gentleman, had been lived in there for 35
years.
5 years. And this man, when we showed the property, would actually, he was older, would come to the door in a robe with nothing on underneath. He was old and grumpy and crazy.
Smoked in the house.
Smoked in the house. So I learned from our first phone call that Jeremy's very proud of everything that he's done to the property. And we want to go ahead and make sure that you acknowledge that. You listen to your client, potential client, and acknowledge that within the first 5 minutes of your listing appointment with them. Okay, very critical to go ahead and give them kudos on their property before you ever even get going. So back into it. So I got to tell you, I saw the pictures of this when it was listed before. It doesn't look anything like the same house. You have done tons of work to it. And I absolutely love this sort of Americana color scheme that you've got going on outside. It looks so gorgeous. And those little like red accents on the corbels.
Yeah.
Oof, very, very nice. So like I said, Jeremy, we're going to spend the next little while kind of going over your needs, your wants, and whether or not we want to work together. I really think listing a house is just like a marriage.
Weird marrying your brother, but okay.
We're not going to go ahead and actually marry each other. But you got to think about it. Over the next 6 months, we're going to actually probably have more communication than you do with your wife, your girlfriend. Okay, because I'm going to be working here to sell your house, one of your most crazy big investments and one of the biggest money banks that you have in your life. And I want to go ahead and make sure that I deliver you the best service possible. So we're going to learn about each other a little bit today. I'm going to learn about the house, and we're going to decide at the end of today if you want to work with me, and even cooler, if I want to work with you, because you know what? You might be a jerk.
Mutual feelings.
Oh, he's not getting a Christmas present next year.
That's
So
literally almost a year away.
So one of the most important parts about our process is that we want to make sure that your house is ready to go. So with your permission, I would like to go ahead and tour the property on my own briefly. I won't be long. And while I am learning about your property, I'm going to have you fill out the seller's property condition disclosure.
Okay.
So this document we're going to provide to anyone that's interested in your home. Okay, it gets uploaded with the listing. You have to fill it out honestly and to the best of your knowledge. As you can see, with answers, there are always yes, no, or unknown. Okay, if you're not sure of an answer, it's completely okay to put unknown. And in fact, I would prefer if you're not sure of an answer. If this item does not apply to your home, you can also put not applicable.
Okay.
So you'll find questions like, does your house have a sump pump?
No.
You don't have a sump pump. Okay, so you can put not applicable to that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a few minutes right now, and I'm going to go ahead and tour your home with your permission.
Okay.
If you have any questions about this, just skip the question, circle it, and we'll come back afterwards.
Perfect. Thank you.
Jay,
All
I
right.
have a quick question. Why do you want to tour the house by yourself?
Okay, so Doris, I am a busy person, right? And I have found that ultimately, if you go on a tour with the buyer, okay, seller, excuse me, thank you, they're going to go ahead and they're going to occupy your time with some of the most benign little things like, oh my gosh, when I bought this house, it didn't have this thing, and I added this little.
I added a mirror.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
We'll do it, and I'll go through it quickly. It also enables me to look at the house truly objectively, because I am not sitting there with the seller going, I painted this wall and I replaced this kitchen and I did this and I did that. So what I'll do is I'll actually go ahead and leave them. It also saves me half the amount of time that it takes us to go ahead and walk through it with the seller. Because ultimately, you you walk into a home having a pretty good sense already of what it's going to be listed for, what its pluses and minuses are, because you do so much research before you walk in the door. So I will actually ask the seller to fill out the property condition disclosure while I am touring the house. Okay, 2 reasons, like I said, enables me to walk through the house faster and objectively, and it gets the seller used to handling the pen, okay, or in my case, I do my paperwork on my iPad, but it gets them used to doing that and signing. So we're going to ask for the sale at the end of this transaction, at the end of this presentation. So we want to go ahead and have them already used to and comfortable using the writing utensil. Okay, so I'll disappear for just a second. Jeremy will start filling out the property condition disclosure. I'll be over here and I'll be wandering their house. While I'm wandering their house, I'm going to take notes on little things that I think they need to do. Is my voice coming like from above right now? Like I'm not in the screen.
No,
so yes, I'm the omniscient deity up in the screen that you don't know who is speaking. But I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to walk around. I'm going to make notes. I'm going to look at different room sizes. I'm going to come up with things that I want them to do to make the house more saleable. And then after about 10 to 15 minutes, depending on the size of the house, I'll come back. You can walk through a house unbelievably quickly on your own. It really doesn't take you but 5, 10 maximum. Big house, he's got a big 3,400 square foot 3 unit. That might take you a few more minutes because you're knocking on a whole bunch of doors. But I love it, and we'll leave that there. And then I'll come right back and sit down. And I always, again, compliment the seller. Jeremy, holy moly, I love what you did with your kitchen.
Thanks.
That 2-tone cabinetry, the yellow walls, the chalkboard backsplash.
Thank you.
That's really, really well done. I can't wait to see how that looks in photographs.
Mm-hmm.
So did you have any questions on the property condition disclosure
No.
statement? Filled
Pretty
it all
simple.
out?
Yeah.
Yep. And did you sign the end?
Mm-hmm.
All right. You mind if I check?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We're going to see. Now, we're going to see if you earned the gold star today. Are you excited?
Mm-hmm.
You look excited. Can you be any more excited, Jeremy?
Yay.
Yay.
Better.
And so I'll go through the property condition disclosure, make sure that they filled it all out. Very good. Very good. And I'll learn a little bit about the property myself then. Because again, you can take a look here and you know our property condition disclosures. Okay. Air conditioner. Oh, so that's less than a year old?
Yeah, I put it in last summer.
Fantastic. And your driveway, you've re-graveled it?
Over and over again.
Yep.
Thank you to plows.
Wow. All right. And you've recently passed your fire inspection and you have that paperwork.
Yep.
All right. Excellent. Jeremy, it seems like you're really, really, really well prepared. You're not in a flood zone.
Nope.
Excellent. And you do have the certificate of occupancies for each unit.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. 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 Thank you so much for taking the time to fill this out. So basically, I've gone ahead, I've familiarized myself with the house, I've given them a compliment on it, and I have a property condition disclosure signed. So super pumped to go ahead and move forward. Now, Jeremy, thank you again, like I said, for having us in. I will constantly thank the seller. So what I've got in front of him right now is my Hannah Presentations listing presentation. I use just the very simple Hannah presentation listing presentation. It, looks like that. It is unbelievably easy to produce, literally 5 minutes, okay? And basically, I will go through the Hannah presentation, listing presentation for a part of my listing, and then I'll go through my own stuff for the other part. So on the Hannah listing presentation, and actually what we can do is let's see, turn it here. Jeremy, can you crank that screen down just a touch? And what we'll do is we'll go through it like this, and I will attempt to read backwards and from a far away distance, or maybe I'll just come a little closer to you and we'll go through this. So Jeremy, again, thanks so much for having us in today. I am super pumped to get this listing going for you. Now, one of the great things that you have when you're listing with me is I am bringing the power of Howard Hanna Real Estate to your listing. I know that sounds kind of cheesy, and don't get me wrong, it is, okay? But I love this company. Now, I've been in this business for 14 years. I've been at 6 different companies. And I've got to tell you, who you list with matters. This company is absolutely outstanding. One of my favorite parts about the company is that it combines the power of a really huge brokerage with the family orientation of a beautiful local family-run operation.
It's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, and it's a cool company. It was started in the 1950s by the Hanna family. And what's great is that it's run today by the Hanna family.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, we have offices in over 10 states and tons and tons and tons of offices. So we have this amazing power, but we still have big heart. And it's one of the most exciting parts about it. Our current runners of the company, we got 3 awesome Hanna people. These guys are so cool. They are like so approachable, and they made me feel completely welcome at our last award ceremony. So real simple, like I told you, the company was started in the 50s. They have a mission, and I love their mission. So their mission is that we are a family-owned, full-service real estate company providing the finest in real estate, mortgage, title, and insurance services. We strive every day in every transaction to reflect our pride in our company, ourselves, and each other, and in the people and communities that we serve. Through our knowledge, integrity, and innovation, we're able to participate in our customers' realization of the American dream. I mean, don't you? I get a little cheesy, a little tear up a little bit every single time I read this, but it's true. It's true. It really is a great company that you're choosing to list with. So one of the best things to me about listing with a Howard Hanna agent, okay, is the marketing that comes along with it. So Howard Hanna agents actually pay a separate fee above and beyond what we pay to our brokerage to have a kick-ass marketing department.
Oh, wow,
So
that's awesome.
yeah, we have a whole department of people whose job it is to take our materials and produce beautiful marketing materials, print, social media, and email and digital that show your property off in the most bestest possible light. It really is. It's a super feature of our company. But every office has access to a kick butt marketing department. And they are awesome. Like my girl, Brittany, I'll send her your file. And the next thing I know, I've got a Facebook header, I've got Insta, really cool. Insta posts, I've got, great little posts just listed, this and that. It's very, very, very cool. They'll also do print marketing for us. So you've got that going for you as well. On top of the cool marketing that we're going to do for the property, we also have our own relocation department. Now, I know that sounds kind of non-important, but what I'm going to tell you is that when we have companies moving their folks from one area to another, they call these big companies with relocation offices and they say, hey, I have 50 employees moving into the area. Can you hook them up with a great agent? Howard Hanna has a department dedicated solely to seeking out businesses that are transferring employees into our areas, finding those employees and matching them up with great Howard Hanna agents and houses in our area.
That's cool.
Can you see why that would be important to you?
That's awesome.
Yeah, it brings you more potential buyers right to your home. So I absolutely love our marketing department. And another big advantage to Howard Hanna is that we are partnered up with First Priority Mortgage. Now, basically what that means is that in my office, I have an office on the 2nd floor, and I have my homie, Dave Smith, who is our First Priority Mortgage rep right on the 1st floor of our building. So when somebody calls and says, hey, I want to see 6 Park Ave, the first thing I'm going to do is say, all right, sir, have you been pre-qualified for a mortgage yet? If they say no, guess what?
They're going downstairs.
I can walk right downstairs, hand the phone to my boy, Dave Smith, and he can get them pre-qualified. This means that I can ensure that not a single soul that walks through your house that may be interested in it isn't financially prepared to buy it. Sound good? I absolutely love our relationship with First Priority Mortgage. So can you see why listing with Howard Hanna is kind of a cool thing?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Good. And now at that point, folks, usually I'll put away the Hanna presentation. So the Hanna presentation also includes tons of information about the property. So you can go ahead and put the property address right in. It'll tell you how much square footage it has. You can fill in information on it. It tells you the approximate taxes. Very, very, very handy. And then it will go into stuff that I will do later on when I go over their buyer market analysis, their BMA through buy side. And it will talk about, it can bring up comps for you. And it will also tell you how many people we have in our database that are currently looking for that particular home. So all of this, it gives you the buyer heat map. I do this with the buy side BMA. So I don't do this using the Hanna presentation. I'll use the Hanna presentation to give people the reasons why Howard Hanna is a great company to work with, and then I'll move on to other things. So normally what I will do is then I will then shift gears, put my iPad away, and we'll start talking a little bit more about what makes us unique as agents and us unique as, again, a company. So on top of being an amazing company, Jeremy, you're listing with the J. Groah team. And I know that Jared told you we kicked ass and took names for him, right? Okay. We offer so many distinct advantages as a real estate team over our local competition. And that's going to help you get more money for your house in a faster time. Is that something you'd be interested in? All right. So cool things about working with the J. Groah team. We do things just a little bit differently. Okay. For one, I have a very different attitude about real estate than most people. To me, this isn't just a business. This is a passion. And I hope that comes through. I'm clearly in love with my business. I love houses and I love people.
Yeah.
So this is not a job for me. This is connecting buyers and sellers in the most wonderful of ways and ultimately helping the public achieve the dream of home ownership. So you're talking to someone who truly loves what he does and subsequently does it all day, every day, much to my husband's chagrin. The poor bastard seriously never sees me. Yep. Don't kill me, Caroline. My manager's threatening to kill me because I'm using inappropriate language. This is just me, Caroline, and you love me. So now, Jeremy, what makes the J. Groah team a little different? For one, we are one of the only real estate teams in upstate New York. So in our area, the team concept really hasn't caught on. And we operate as a team in a completely different way than most teams do. So on our team, there's me. I am the lead listing agent. Okay. And what that means is that I generally do not work with buyers. I have a great, plucky, young little buyer's agent. His name is Alex Katera, and he's here. Alex works solely with buyers. So what this does is this enables us to really divvy up the duties. I'm not off running around showing buyers 15 houses. My job is solely to help you get your home sold. Can you see why that might be why that might be an advantage for you? Yeah. Do you think I'm going to have a little bit more time to spend getting your home sold?
100%.
Exactly, because I'm not spending the time off with my buyers. And like I said, oh yeah, sorry, you're off camera. Scooch over there, little brother. There we go. So I want to make sure that your home is marketed in the most effective way possible. And I can do that because I have the time to do it. We also have a full-time executive admin. He's excellent. And his job is to take the paperwork element out of my life. So as you can imagine, have you ever done anything within the legal system of New York State before? When you bought the house, how much paperwork was there?
Too much.
Too much. Okay. So what having my executive assistant enables me to do is it enables me to throw all the paperwork at him and say, hey, get it done for me.
Yep.
Again, saving me time, causing you lots of angst, saving me lots of time. What that means. What does it mean? Help me out. What do I have more time to do?
Sell
your house. Exactly. It gives me more time to sell your house. Can you see why that will make a difference? Oh, it really, really, really does. So I have a couple of amazing programs at my disposal that you definitely are going to be excited to take advantage of. The first one that my company offers is called our 100% money back guarantee. Now, have you ever, well, I know this was your first house, right? Did you ever at any point regret buying it?
No.
No, most people don't. Okay. But my company offers a program where if you bought this house and signed on to our 100% money back guarantee, and a month into it, we're like, holy crap, I bought the wrong house. This is insane. You know what? You could go back to Howard Hanna, and Howard Hanna will purchase it back for you. There are fees involved, but what a great marketing tool, especially in our current pandemic climate. We have, and I don't know about you new agents in different parts of the state, but in our market, we are having tons of people who are moving up from downstate, up from the city, up from the tri-state area, and they are buying houses via video. They're not even seeing them. Okay, they're buying houses via FaceTime. And in the case where we have the ability to do it, okay, we're using the 100% money back guarantee as a great sales tool. So we are the only company in our MLS that has this program. Can you imagine how much peace of mind this could give a buyer, a potential buyer for your home?
Yeah, that's awesome.
It doesn't cost anything for you to enroll your home in our money back guarantee program. Will you be enrolling a house in it?
Yeah.
Fantastic. What I'm going to have you do is I'm going to have you go ahead and just sign for seller right at the bottom there saying, hey, we're going to go ahead and enroll 6 Park Ave in our money back guarantee program. You could have at least signed it. No. Now, what are we doing there? Again, just getting them used to signing the paperwork, folks. And you might as well sell them on the 100% money back guarantee right now. It doesn't hurt to go ahead and get them enrolled in it. Now, another amazing advantage that the Groah team of Howard Hanna Real Estate offers is our partnership with the HSA Home Warranty Program. So for around $650 to $675, a buyer or you can purchase a home warranty on this property. And that home warranty will cover the breakdown of any of the major systems within the home for the first 12 months that a buyer owns the property. So again, thinking of peace of mind, when you bought this house, how broke were you when you closed? Yeah. I mean, you were what, 26 when you bought this house?
Yeah.
And you put 20% down, right? Or almost 20% down.
Yeah, and then dropped 35K.
And then dropped 35K to the renovation. But you put 20% down. And how much money did that leave you with when you closed?
$1,000.
You were eating ramen for a few months, right? So imagine how it would have been if you had had a furnace go within those first 12 months of ownership. How much would that have sucked?
We would have been out of a house.
You would have been out of a home. So what you could have had instead was a home warranty, and you would have called up this wonderful company, HSA, and they would have sent someone over, and for a nominal service fee, they would have gotten that furnace up and running. Or if it couldn't get up and running again, guess what they would have done?
Replace it?
They would have replaced. I can't snap. Folks, just an aside, I broke my hand last month, so I can't really do much with it. If it looks a little extra fluffy, it's a little extra swollen. But yes, Jeremy, so we can go ahead and incorporate this into the sale of your home as well. You can actually purchase this right for your buyer and say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, at time of closing, you have 12 months of coverage just in case something goes wrong with your house. Given that we're listing this house probably pretty darn high, right? Because we're in a hot market. I know you're going to have a lot of equity to play around with. Do you think this makes sense to offer up to a buyer right now?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Absolutely. So I'm going to tell you, like I said, the normal coverage is right around $675. So I'm going to have you go ahead and just sign saying that, sure, let's go ahead. We're going to plan on having a home warranty applied to this listing. And I'm going to be able to put a rider across the top of your sign that says, hey, home warranty, 12-month home warranty provided. So thank you so much for that. Now, one of the other amazing things about working with the Groah team is that you are going to be dealing with the most anal retentive son of a gun listing your house. Now, what does that mean for you? I pay insane amounts of attention to every image that comes out about your house, every video that comes out about your house, every social media post that comes out about your house. I am going to make sure that that description, that image truly reflects the best. that your home can be. So what I want to do, and at this point, folks, what I'll do is I'll open up the iPad again, and I will bring up, am I able to share screen? I think so. So I will bring up one of my current listings, and I'll just say, listen, I focus so strongly on the language that is used to describe your home and the pictures that are used. So we have the ability to put up to 48 images in our MLS. I know most of you, I think, are using Matrix with us too. So we have up to 48 images and 1,200 characters. I focus intensely on making sure that the images all look good. And in this case, this was one of my flips. It did not get staged, but I always use a professional photographer, Jeremy. And you can see the images are beautiful, well lit, well exposed, and they really do show off the beauty of each and every room. Now, when I started this program, only using professional photographers and videographers to market your property, I was the only person in my market doing it. Nowadays, with 500 agents in my MLS, you better bet your buns there sure are people who will use professional photographers for their listings too. The biggest difference that I can offer you is the fact that I am a wordsmith. I actually have specific training in the language of sales and how to word things in a manner that appeals to a buyer. So you're going to find my descriptions tend to be a little, we'll just say authentic like me, but the goal is to attract a buyer to come look at your house, right? So in this case, the description for this beautiful colonial was the recipe for your sweet little slice of heaven can be found right here at 29 Linden Road. We start with just a dash of the perfectest location in the always desirable Hertham Heights. We mix that up with a whole lot of utterly awesome condition and top it off with a hella good price. Boom. Gordon Ramsay ain't got nothing on us. Sassy style awaits. Let's party in the gorgeous on-trend navy and gray kitchen with new stainless appliances, butcher block and quartz countertops, and ample cupboard and pantry space, wide open to the light and bright dining room. Who's hankering to be the host or hostess with the mostest this holiday season? You know you are. And then continue the festivities into the adjoining living and family rooms, both with wood-burning fireplaces to warm yourselves on these upcoming nights when Mama Nature decides to throw her temper tantrums. Now, you want to geek it out? This house is smarter than I am, which admittedly is not saying much, I know. Smart switches throughout enable you to control life from your phone, and the first floor office makes work from home easy. Now, once you're done geeking, head upstairs into your beautiful master with its zen-ish new master bath and just let the day drift away in the jetted tub. Would you want to live in this house?
Yeah.
I'm going to do the same thing with yours.
Sweet.
My goal is to make your home appear absolutely beautifully in pictures. I am screen sharing. We're going to stop the screen share. I want to make it appear absolutely beautifully in pictures. And most importantly, I want the words that are used in the description to flawlessly give a buyer exactly what they want to hear.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yes, and that is something that many agents don't focus on.
No.
They really don't pay attention to the words
This
coming
is
out
a
of
3-bedroom house.
Yeah, so you've clearly read some Zillow profiles. Okay, yes. So new agents out there, really think about the words that you're using to describe a home. I was taught to craft a story. Give a buyer, rather than the standard, this 3BR, 2BA home with an FPLLR and open concept DR with 3 bedrooms, 2.5 bathrooms. Oh, good grief. Whoa. Are those beers, Doris? Because if those are beers, I want some.
No, I'm so sorry. That's coffee.
Oh, that's even better.
Oh, well, yeah, we wouldn't mind that either. So I want you really to think about, new agents, about your listings and telling a story with the words that are in that story. Because your job is to sell that house. And any dummy can go on Zillow. What was it?
Should we open the chats? There's like 23.
Oh, yeah, open the chats, Jeremy. Sorry. So go ahead and we go ahead and say, hey, let's make sure those words describe the home magnificently and sell it to the best of our ability. So really think about that as you're listing a property. Don't be boring. Be you. And if you are boring, Be someone else. Just saying. So again, working with us, like I said, Jeremy, our attention to detail really is paramount. I am a certified home stager done through the Accredited Staging Professionals Association. So I actually have a certification in making your home look its best. And we're going to truly take advantage of that. After you sign our contract, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to work together to make sure that every image of your home looks stunning by making sure that every picture of every piece of content in your home is arranged the right way and looks good for everything.
Awesome.
Good?
That sounds
Sounds
great.
good? So yes, high focus on staging. Absolutely. Now, we also focus very strongly, Jeremy, on having a powerful social media presence. Why do you think that's important for your real estate listing?
I mean, everybody sees their crap on Facebook.
Everybody sees their crap.
Instagram,
Snapchat, the TikTok.
You're old.
Oh, the TikTok. So yes, having a powerful social media presence is critical. Now, we're friends on Facebook, right?
Mm-hmm.
And how many of my posts do you see?
A lot.
A lot. And do you know why you see them? Facebook has a whole bunch of little like gnomes in a basement, and they're sitting there determining exactly what content that you see. And one of the ways that the little gnomes in the basement of Facebook determine what content you're seeing is they look for people who have great social media presences, powerful social media presences, who post often and engage the Facebook viewership in effective ways. And they put those posts in front of you more often than they do other people. So what does that tell you about the Groah team's social media presence?
It's large.
It's large and in charge. Exactly. We have the largest following on social media of any independent agent, save for a team that has 11 people on it. So our social media goes out to as many people as possible and way more people than your average realtor.
Yeah.
This comes from the fact that I am, first off, extremely involved in my community. As you know, I'm the member of the board of directors for the Landmark Society. I'm on the board of directors for Sculpture Space. I love being involved in my community, and that benefits you. Why?
Because you know a lot of people and
I
everything.
know, exactly. I know a lot of people, and I can put it out there. So your home will be out beautifully with a gorgeous, well-written description to a huge population of people.
Sounds good to me.
Sound pretty attractive? I don't think that's a particularly bad thing. Now, on top of all that fancy social media stuff, I very firmly believe in a person-to-person connection.
Mm-hmm.
So on top of the social media blasting that we're going to do for you, I'm also going to make sure that I do an open house on your property with your permission within the first week of it listing. Now, advantages to this are very, very, very simple. For one, we have 3 sets of people, because you have a 3 unit, that we need to coordinate these showings with, right?
Mm-hmm.
So knowing that your home is beautiful, is going to be very attractively priced, and is going to be fantastically marketed, do you think you're going to have a pretty hot listing?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, I really think you are. So we're going to have a lot of showings that we need to coordinate with your 2 tenants and you and Michelle, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have to get Blue out of the house, that crazy dog of yours. It's kind of going to be a pain in the butt, right? So
absolutely.
If I do an open house, we can say, tenants,
get out,
go get lunch. Jeremy and Michelle, take the dog, go for a long walk, and get some lunch. And I can have as many buyers through the home as possible quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Is that something you'd be willing to sign on for?
Yep, definitely.
Perfect. Okay. Another thing that we do that I find critically important is we go ahead and send out just listed postcards. These are produced and like I said, our office sends them to, I believe it's the several houses in the immediate area, and then a whole bunch of houses around it that are similar in characteristic to your home. Okay. We send these every single listing that we do. So right around you, your neighbors are all going to be notified that your home is for sale.
That's cool.
On top of that, we go ahead and have a neighbor notice program that's exclusive to the Groah team. And what we do is I send my amazing buyer's agent, Alex, out to your neighborhood We don't do this right now, folks. COVID has stalled this program. In non-COVID times, we do this. And Alex goes around and he knocks on 50 doors in your neighborhood. And what he does is he's very simple. He hands them a flyer with his card and your property's information on it. And he asks the people around you questions about your neighborhood. And those questions are simple. What's your favorite part about the neighborhood? What's your favorite memory? Oh my God, tell that husband of yours to stop showing you cool things, Doris.
He went food shopping. He just wants to show me what he did. He just did well. Thank you.
And when a man does something well, go ahead and make sure that you compliment them because they need it.
He's a graduate of the Good Husband School. I know.
Oh God, you're so lucky because mine isn't. I love him to death. We've been married 9 years. We're doing just fine, but definitely not a graduate of the Good Husband School. So we're gonna talk about neighborhood notice. Neighbor notice, they're gonna ask questions like, what's your favorite part about your neighborhood? What's your favorite memory of your neighborhood? And all they're trying to do is they're trying to gauge some interest on the comings and goings of what's going on around you. Obviously, if he hears, I hate this neighborhood and it sucks,
we ignore it.
we ignore it. He's just gonna kind of move on. But his goal is to engage the people. And then at the end of it, you know what he's gonna do? He's gonna say, hey, listen, we've just listed this house at 6 Park Ave, right around the corner. You know, it's that gorgeous Victorian 3-unit that they painted blue a couple years ago. Do you know the property? Mm-hmm. Well, here's an informational flyer about it. Statistics show that 25% of our buying population, of our buyers, come from a referral from the local neighborhood. Do you know anybody who's thinking about buying in this amazing area? A lot of times they say no. A lot of times they say no. Sometimes they say yes. So we're going to walk around and we're going to spend some time really pushing your property to the immediate neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
Again,
that's smart.
Yeah. Can you see? I guarantee you are going to be so pleased with the amount of work that we will do for you. I guarantee you will be happy with our level of service. So can you see why listening with the J Grow team is going to rock your world?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Good. So what I want to show you now are a couple pieces of information about your house. And I want to make sure that we're doing everything is right. Okay. So the first thing I always show buyers is their tax map of the house, the tax information about the house. And we'll go through it. I can't, I know. For those of you that aren't seeing what I'm seeing, Doris's husband just brought out a bottle of tequila to show us. You know, here's where I'm at, San Pellegrino, and here's where they're at, tequila.
He is messing with you now.
I
love it. It's fantastic.
I love him. Okay. So, and Maggie and Jen, I love this constant flow in the chat. I'm not paying attention to it because I'm not. Yes, an actual client, Maggie, thank you, will likely give you more feedback more questions. Very
it's
difficult.
hard when I know everything.
It's hard when he's been your assistant for the last 7 years and he's been your favorite brother for the last 30 years. So it's a little more challenging in this aspect. So then we'll go ahead and we'll take out their property information sheet. I get it from our tax records. I know that we have several different, everybody has access to them. And the whole point is for us to just go over some of the details and make sure they're right. So Jeremy, I can see you've got about a 3,000 square foot 3-unit. It has 6 bedrooms, 3 kitchens, 3 bathrooms, and it was built around 1875.
Yes, sir.
It is an oldie.
Mm-hmm.
The lot, this sounds interesting. The lot is 33 by 80.
Yeah, it makes zero sense. The lot is so weird.
Yeah, so the lot is a little oddly shaped, right? When I pulled up the tax map, I showed that. So this we'll have to do a little bit more research in, just to make sure that we present the property accurately, right?
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. You're currently assessed at $79,000. You're worth a little more than that, don't worry. And in 2018, you paid $127,200 for that. Now, how come that number is so weird?
We had concessions.
Okay, so you rolled in your closing costs?
Yep.
Okay. Do you remember what the price that the seller got on the house was?
I think it was 122 or 120, something like that.
Okay, so you paid around 120 to 122, and you financed about $5,000 to $7,000 of your closing costs in. Okay. We do have a 1-stall detached garage.
It's a 3-stall.
Okay. So we have a 3-stall detached garage. We have one. Are there any enclosed porches?
No.
No. So all of your porches are covered.
Yep.
Okay. So we'll correct that. And we have 3 covered porches on the property and a 3-stall detached garage, correct? Yep. All right. And your taxes for the tax year of 2020 were around $4,900?
Yes, sir.
Okay, excellent. Do you currently have the star exemption on your property?
I believe so.
And do you have any other exemptions
I don't
currently on the
think
best
so,
of your
no.
knowledge? No veterans exemption?
No.
No old folks exemption?
Sadly not old.
Ah, you're not old. You're just old in heart, right?
Mhm.
Okay, good. So do you feel like we're accurately reflecting the property?
Yeah, definitely.
Good. Now, what I want to show you next is I want to give you a little bit of an idea of what buyers are going to know about your property before they ever walk in the door. So folks, what I'll always do is I always print out, and I know you might hate them, they're my friend. I will always print out the Zillow page for their home. Because what does a buyer do when they go to look at a house? They pull up the Zillow. Okay, so buyers are coming to your listings now more informed than ever. So Jeremy, what was that?
I agree with Maggie's.
Yes, exactly. Taxes should always be the true taxes before any exemption. Thank you, Maggie. So I want to go over your Zillow profile.
Okay.
Because every buyer that I talk to now,
No.
you guys have sent me listings from Zillow, right?
Yep.
Zillow, like it or hate it, love it or hate it, it's here to stay. And it's a great tool for you, the buyer, to get information about a house before you come to it.
Yeah, definitely.
So let's make sure we've got everything right here. So the buyer's going to come to your home seeing pictures of the old listing.
Mm-hmm.
So these are old pictures, right?
Yep.
I mean,
when it was brown.
The house is not brown anymore.
No.
So a buyer is going to see that you've clearly done some work to it. Okay. And then these pictures actually look pretty decent,
Yeah,
right?
the upstairs apartment's nice.
The upstairs apartment was nice when you bought it?
Yeah.
Have you really done much to it?
No.
Okay. So that's
The one
something
we painted.
you painted. Okay. So that's something you really want to be aware of when you're listing your home, is that these guys are going to come into this listing seeing those nice pictures of your home.
Mm-hmm.
And they are not going to see the insane pictures of your apartment before you fixed it all up, right?
Yeah.
So this is something we're going to have to work through. And that's why it's so critical for you to list with us, okay? Because we're going to make sure that that first floor looks like a model home.
Yeah.
They're going to also know that it was sold on 9/12/18 for $127,200. So they're going to know that you've only been in this house for 2.5 years,
yeah.
and that you paid $127,200 for it. They're also going to look at that. What is this thing called?
Zestimate.
A zestimate. Okay. And the zestimate on your house is what?
137.6.
137.6. And when we spoke, I know you were hoping for a little more than that, right?
Just a wee bit.
But we're going to have to work against the Zillow's estimate, because the buyers are going to see that and they're going to go, why is this house X when the
When it should be
estimate,
this.
when
Yeah.
it should be this? Exactly. So there's a whole bunch of information here that affects how we work with the property. So we're going to make sure that that is clear to everybody as we go. Now, the last thing I want to show you is the real-time market report for your home. Now, folks, I love the buy-side BMA. I absolutely love the buy-side BMA. It is a beautiful document, and our copier decided this morning that it wasn't in the mood to print color. So I will always print it out full color on glossy paper. Okay, it's a beautiful, beautiful packet that has lots of information for your potential seller. It starts off with why partner with Howard Hanna. I've already gone over that, so I'm not going to bother reiterating anything. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to show them this page. Now, Jeremy, one of the most important things is knowing what the public knows about your house. That's why we just went over your Zillow profile, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like we talked about, Zillow, oh, well, this is also different than the number that was just printed off earlier. Zillow is telling us here that your house is worth $140,081. eAppraisals.com is saying your home is worth about $134,000, and publicdata.com is telling us that your house
Short sale.
is ready for a short sale at $121,000. Okay, so now when we spoke, I had suggested that our range was probably going to be somewhere between $165,000 and $190,000. So there is a discrepancy here between these numbers. And that's just letting you know, again, what we're working with the public. I love the buyer heat map. Most of my listings are in generally desirable areas. Again, after doing this for 14 years, I can kind of pick and choose the listings that I get. You don't you dare do that, new agents. New agents, you take every opportunity, seize it, and go. Okay. I'm a disgruntled old curmudgeon now. It's a little different. But I'm fortunate in that a lot of my listings are in very desirable areas. So I'm going to be able to say, hey, Jeremy, now have you ever seen like a weather map? Like this morning's scary winter storm warning weather map? Holy balls, we are set to get a whole lot of snow. Okay. But you know how on those weather maps, like the places that are going to get the most snow are the darkest, right? And the places that are like, hey, Mama Nature, thank you so much for giving us a break. They're the light colors.
Yeah.
Okay. This is a buyer heat map. Now, the buyer heat map says the same thing. The darkest areas are the areas that we have the most buyers ready to go. What do you see about yours?
I'm right in that spot.
Fist bump. Dun, dun. Yes, you're right in the hot spot of our market. And our market is excellent right now.
So stupid question. Why does it want the flood zone houses?
It didn't pay attention. Now, this is not a perfect document either. This is why real estate agents exist, because computers cannot interpret data. Jeremy just said, why are
all of this is flood zone right here.
Yeah, all of the like uber popular heat map area is flood zone. And it's like the least desirable area in our area right now. It's like flood zone has flooded 4 times majorly.
And FEMA's buying the houses.
And FEMA's are buying the houses just to knock them over. Right? But again, doesn't matter unless they bring it up and they're very well appraised to it. Okay. Maggie just said the buy side heat map will help you to price the house accurately. Yes, 100% right. Now, here's what I love, Jeremy. Okay. We have had, this is one of my favorite pages in our buy side BMA, folks. Definitely take advantage of it. Okay. We're going to go over the online activity in our market. So we have had over 18 million pieces of online activity inside your network. Pretty great, right?
Amazing.
Within a 5-mile radius of this house, we've had 7,764 pieces of online activity.
That's crazy.
And within a 5-mile radius and within our predicted price range, 3,954 impressions online.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Isn't that fascinating?
Yeah, that's cool.
And you can see here, this broken down by bedroom, 86% of those people are looking for 4-bedroom homes or more.
Yeah.
And by price range, I mean, we've got 571 people alone who are looking between $100,000 and $200,000.
Perfect.
Isn't that great?
Yeah.
Super exciting. I love to see this. And what this tells me is that your home, properly priced, beautifully marketed, will sell and will sell quickly. Does that sound like something you'd be interested in? So after I've gone over all of this stuff with you, are you just as excited as I am to go ahead and list the house?
Yeah, definitely.
Well, conveniently, I've got the listing paperwork right here. You ready to go?
Yeah.
Now, normally I get a no. Say no.
No.
You tired, Jeremy?
Just a little bit. Sorry,
Get some
guys.
coffee. Wake up. So now, what's holding you back? Why don't you feel like signing the contract today?
I want to meet with 3 other realtors.
Ah, okay. So tell me a little bit, Jeremy. Why if we've gone ahead and I've shown you what we can do for you, why we're the best company in the area, and why listing with me is going to get you the highest amount of money. Can we go ahead and just sign the listing paperwork now?
No, am I supposed to say yes or no to this?
Normally what we'll do is we'll go through a series of question and answer. Now, one of the things that we never discussed was
commission
and
I don't know.
Price of home.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, you'll notice I do not discuss commission and I do not discuss the price that I will list the house unless they badger me. Okay, I don't even go over a CMA. My first goal is to get them to sign the contract. We'll leave numbers blank, okay? But I want them to sign the contract so that I am assured that all of my work is being paid for, right? Okay, I just, and my office manager made me share this quick story with my our office meeting on Tuesday, whereby I had a friend of mine whom I sold a house to 3 years ago, I keep in touch with him religiously. I do 6 pop buys a year. He gets a margarita mix once a year. He gets peanut butter balls once a year. He gets Bloody Mary mix twice a year. Like literally drop by with this guy, everything. I invited him to all of my parties. I go over to all of his parties myself. And in November, he contacted me to list the house. He's moving to St. Croix in January. I said, great. I sat there with him. We drank 3 Bloody Marys. I gave him tons of great things to do with his house. Then in December, he had me over again. A few Bloody Marys later, I helped him, dry lock his basement for a couple hours and move on. 2 weeks ago, he called me back, said, I think we're ready. So I go over there. I had instructed him to paint the cabinetry, and he hadn't done that yet. He wanted top dollar. I said, still not done with that. I said, so I'll give you a week and I'll come back. A week later, I called him up and he said, oh, Jay, we got a call from Emily, his wife, Emily's friend's realtor. And he's going to go ahead and sell the house for X% instead of your Y%. Will you go ahead and sell the house for X%? I told him, I was like, no, I don't drop my commission. And I explained to him why we don't. I explained to him the benefits of our program, this and that. And nonetheless, 3 or 4 days later, he gave me a quick call to say, hey, Jay, just an FYI, because I am listing with other realtor. He goes, because that difference in commission is enough for me to go ahead and send my car down to St. Croix. You know what? And I wished him well. I said, I'm very disappointed. I said, but I do wish you and Emily the best. And if I can be of any service, let me know. I got off the phone. I screamed. I might have punched a couple of walls. Then I went to the gym and beat up on a heavy bag for a little while. That made me feel a lot better. But ultimately, what did I do? I gave away all the goods and didn't get paid for it. So normally my listing presentation has sign the document and then we'll discuss price and commission. Okay. I don't like to discuss price or commission initially. So Jeremy, we're going to have you go ahead and sign the sign. Yes, sir.
I have one question. Why you didn't have him sign it from the beginning, the paperwork, and then tell him what to do?
Excellent question. I want to establish rapport and trust with them from the very get-go. And so one of the things that I'll do is I'm super enthusiastic naturally anyway. Okay. If you ever get a chance to take a class with me, I am a certified real estate instructor. They're nuts. Okay. I'm nuts. And I'll go ahead and I want to wow them with all the pictures of my listings and all this stuff and then say, hey, sign it. Because what you're going to find in our market, and your name is Jens? Mm-hmm. Jens. So what you're going to find, at least in our market, sir, is that a lot of realtors will come in with absolutely no presentation and they're going to go, hey, I'm Realtor X. Nice to meet you. I've sold a lot of houses in this area and I think you should be listed at 189.9. Their listing presentation legit sucks. Like it's nothing thought out. It's nothing planned. It's very willy-nilly. And they don't even have like a great CMA that they've gone ahead and supported it with. They're just shooting from the hip, shooting from the gut, and it kind of sucks. So what I'll do is I'll wow them with my Hannah presentation, with my love of all things Howard Hanna, with the love of all things Jay Grow team, and all the things that we do for our clients. And nobody else, I shouldn't say that, most other realtors don't talk about that. So I want to wow them first and then go ahead and say, hey, let's go ahead and sign the paperwork now. And when they say no, I have great comebacks like, okay, I completely understand that you might want to go ahead and talk to some other realtors first. But have I shown you how awesome I am going to be for your home? Have I shown you, do you believe that I can get the most money for you in the shortest amount of time? I've never had anybody say no, because they can't say no. Well, then I always follow that up with, okay, great. Then let's go ahead and get started. I want to go ahead and book the photographer and videographer as soon as possible to take advantage of this hot market. So definitely get your report and your trust established first, and then come in and hard ask for the sale. And I was always taught in all of my sales training, hard ask 7 times. So if they keep saying no, work around it. 7th time statistically is when they're going to say, hey, cool. It's a little salesy.
So throughout your presentation, Jay, he did assumptive close at least 7 times.
Yes.
So so the photos are gonna look so great when I put it in the MLS. he had him fill out the PCD and sign it.
Yep.
That's an assumptive close. So
Correct.
he at least 7 times. I'm gonna share my line with you when somebody says they want to work with somebody else because I think you can pull it off. You've already met me. Why do you want to work with anybody else?
Hell yeah, I love that, Maggie.
And you
I
can
love
do
that.
it. And
That's
they laugh
perfect.
and they sign the paperwork every time. But that's my personality, and you're not all going to be able to do that. But I do. That's what I say. But you've already met me. Why would you want to work with anybody else? Who's going to work
You know,
hard?
I'm completely stealing that line because that works with my personality too. It might not work with everybody's personality. You have to be a very confident person.
It definitely won't work for everybody. But if you are one of those, you know who you are. If you're one of those people, you can do it.
Yes, I love that. I love that. So there you go, folks. I mean, great lines. You want to really establish yourself and work within your authentic and true being. It's one of the things you'll see with me. Like I said, my manager seriously was groaning from the other room because I said, I might have said some vulgar words. And the reality is that's just who I am. I swear like a sailor in normal daily operation. I won't swear like a sailor in a listing appointment with a client. However, if I'm mirroring and matching and they're swearing like a sailor, I might not go to that level, but I will throw in a little bit of matching to them so that they get comfortable with me.
So that's where you got to take Mark Ray's class and you're going to flex to their style. So if you have a very polished person who's a very formal and quiet and soft-spoken, you're going to just tone it down. And for someone like Jay and I, who are a little bit bigger personalities, I make sure I sit. I literally put both my feet on the floor with those people. I put my hands on the table. I'm grounding myself, and it allows me to slow down. I physically change my posture. And that's going to change how you're talking to them.
And you physically change, like when you talk to somebody on the phone, you can generally get a great assessment of what their personality style is. So when I'm talking to somebody and I get the sense that I'm dealing with an engineer mindset, okay, that really type A, anal retentive, detail-oriented person, okay, I'm going to show up that day in a very, very well-tailored sweater, some khaki pants, and some very clean but understated loafer shoes. If I've got someone that calls me and is like, Jay, we love you on social media. Oh my God, you're a freaking riot. You better bet your buns that day I'm going to show up as Gay Jay, and I'm going to be wearing my ripped jeans. I'm going to be wearing my Armani t-shirt and my big crazy glasses. I have like 7 pairs of glasses. And I also have contacts. And on the days when the big crazy glasses are going to set someone off, I'm not going to wear them. Okay. And on the days when my slightly large, occasionally flamboyant homosexuality might set someone off, you better bet your buns. I can sit there and I know exactly what happened in football last weekend. And I can talk beer and sports with your average straight man just as easily as I can talk interior decor and design with a delightful, crazy lady. Okay. You want to go ahead and get yourself comfortable with multiple personality types, like Mark Ray probably said, in this business, because the chameleon in this business is the one that's going to be the most successful. Now, Jeremy has signed the documents, okay? He's gone ahead and he's just signed the listing. All I want him to do is put his name, sign his name to the listing so that I know in the end, he's not likely going to back out. And then a lot of times what they'll say is, well, what am I listing my house for? And then I pull out from my bag, hidden conveniently, because if they don't question my price, I'm just gonna go ahead and we'll do that later, okay? But I also have prepared a full CMA with at least three comparable sales, and I'm gonna go ahead and bracket it for them. So Jeremy, I have comparable properties to yours that have sold within the last 365 days. Now, when you go out, like let's say you're gonna go out and buy a computer, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, you're going to go to Best Buy, let's say, and you're going to look at several computers, right? Mm-hmm. And what are you doing as you're sitting there looking at each one of these computers?
Comparing them.
You're comparing them, right? And you're looking for that computer that offers you what?
The best bang for my buck.
The best combination of value and performance, just like you said, the best bang for your buck. Well, guess what? Home buyers,
Do the
they
same.
do exactly the same thing. So we actually have to really think about how we're going to price this house. So here we have 169 Main Street in Whitesboro. Now, this house is what? A quarter mile up the road?
No.
Okay. This is a pending sale. It's on about a third of an acre, listed for 159.9. It sold for right around there. The agent was able to tell me that. This house has 2 apartments. And as you can see from the pictures, how does it compare to yours?
That's fine.
Yeah,
About the
it's
same.
pretty okay. So it's a classic and well cared for Whitesboro Village home. Great value with a 3-bedroom bath and a half main home and a 2-bedroom attached apartment. Floor plan can accommodate any number of living arrangements, an in-law apartment for 1 level living, an adult child, or a tenant to pay your mortgage. Tons of options. The main house has been mostly renovated. So let's compare these renovations to yours. Many of the windows have been replaced.
Yep.
Right? Let's see, hardwoods.
Yep.
Now they have hardwoods. Yours are
Hardwoods and LVP.
and LVP all the way through, and they're all refinished, right? The bonus room has an exterior door entrance. Let's see. After that, it doesn't list many updates. Now you can see it's been freshly painted on the outside and has a newer roof. How does that compare to your house?
About the same.
About the same? Yours being maybe a little
Mine's better.
little bit better. Yep, absolutely. So that was listed for 159 and sold for right around that. Now let's take a look at 8 Elmwood Ave. Okay, this is right across from Oriskany Boulevard, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this was a pending sale, sold for around that price at 159.9. This is a 2-unit building. Again,
One less unit than
one
mine.
less unit than yours. And it says it's a 6-bedroom, 2-family in a convenient location. Laundry is on site. How does that compare to yours?
Same thing.
Same thing. And let's take a look at these pictures. You can see the kitchens. They look like they're nice, clean 1990s kitchens.
Yeah.
And how does that compare to yours?
Mine are better.
Yours are definitely better. Absolutely. You've got that gorgeous brand new kitchen in your unit. And upstairs you have 2000s maple
Early
cabinets.
2000s, yeah.
So they look great. After that, it says a newly paved driveway. So you've got your newly gravel driveway for multiple cars. And the tenants pay all the utilities. Is that the same with you?
Same thing. Yep.
So looking at the pictures, we can see it's got a nice, simple interior. How does yours compare?
Mine's better.
Yours is better. So listed at 159.9 and sold for right around that. Now, here we have a couple of closed listings that I want to bring to your attention. This is 28 Elm Street. Okay, this is Whitesboro as well. Now, this is a side-by-side duplex. Okay, currently rents for $1,000 a month on each side. So they've got great income. Okay, now this is on a good-sized lot. It's approximately 2,500 square feet, and this has beautiful hardwood floors. Again, you've got them. You have in the past 11 years, you've got a newer roof. Yours.
Yep.
Newer roof.
Yep.
Newer windows.
Yep.
Yep. Let's see. Newer doors.
Yeah.
Yeah. Newer furnaces.
Yep.
Now, does yours have central air?
Yes.
This does not. So you've got a bonus on them there. How about updated hot water tanks?
Yeah.
Yep. Updated electrical?
Yeah.
Updated plumbing?
Yep.
Fantastic. So would you say that this is a pretty good comparable home to yours?
Yeah.
Yeah, but even yours might be
Better.
a touch better. So this was listed for 169.9. Excuse me, and it sold for 169. Now the last comp that I want to show you is right here. I can't flip pages. This is 79 Main Street. Okay, this was listed for 185 and it sold for 182. Now, this is a 4-unit. Okay. And this is right around the corner from us, right?
Mm-hmm.
How does it compare on the outside?
It's uglier.
It's so much uglier.
It's way uglier.
Oh my goodness, it's just ugh. Okay. And let's take a look at the pictures. So how does this compare on the inside to yours?
Fine.
It's fine, but yours is pretty, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's look at the descriptions.
There is no description.
Well, I'd love to look at the description, but this is the reason why you should list with me, because this agent didn't even bother to write a description. Okay. So this house sold for 175. And how does it compare to yours?
It's bigger. It has another unit.
It has another unit, but
it's crappier condition.
it's crappier condition. Exactly. So knowing that we have all of this data, right? And our data showing us that a 2-unit in nice shape, but not as flashy as yours, is going to sell for around 155,000. A 4-unit in nowhere nice as good a condition is going to sell for 175,000. And a 2-unit side by side in good condition, but not as nice as yours, is going to sell for 189,900. 169,900. Thank you. What do you think your home should be priced at?
175, 180.
I think you're spot on. My recommendation to you is that we list this house. If you want to sell it super fast, we go 165. You want to sell it within a normal time on market, let's go 175. And hey, if you're thinking, let's test the market, and within 30 days, if it's not sold, we drop it, we're going to try 185. Sound good?
Sounds good.
All right. Listen, Jeremy, we're going to make this happen for you. I'm super excited. We've just got to find you and Michelle a house. Alex will be following me up with a phone call so that he can get your buyer's profile going. But do you have any questions for me before we cut off?
I think we're good.
Well, fantastic. Again, it was nice to meet you.
Yeah.
For the 30th
year,
for the 365 times 30 times. And thank you so much. So, gang, that's my normal listing presentation. I'm constantly closing. I try and do it in the least salesy way possible. But we are salesmen, women. So you know what? Let's just be true to who we are. Maggie and Jen, what more do you want me to say? What questions? Anything?
Well, mostly I'm interested in what questions do you guys have? First of all, how did you like seeing a presentation? How'd you feel about being able to witness what one was like?
I enjoyed it. It was very helpful for me.
Good. This is new. We haven't done this before. So
Jay knocked it out of the park. Thank you.
You did. Yeah, you did. We felt it was something that new agents needed to see. What questions do you have about a listing presentation, having seen one now?
Would you do the same thing, Jay? Would you do the same thing with the same exact presentation with the buyer you already sold houses to, and you already know them very well, and you know they kind of know you?
Jens, you hit the nail on the head there. I always incorporate certain things. Thank you. I always incorporate certain things, but otherwise I do try and tailor my presentations to the audience that they're being given to. So in this case, I assumed it was a seller who had just gotten me as a referral from another person and kind of went with that. But yes, if I have someone that I know and I know it's not competitive and I know that they're going to go ahead and list with me, you better bet your buns I will go ahead and take out some of the, fluffy why you should list with Jay and the Jay Grow team because they already know they're going to list with me.
Right.
Yeah, so you're going to have listings. I had a referral from someone. We talked on the phone over several weeks. She was interviewing people over several weeks. And she called me up and said, I want you to list my house. So by the time I went in for the listing presentation, I was going in to have the listing paperwork signed.
Yep, you knew.
We were done. I didn't do a presentation. My presentation happened over
a period of time.
A bit at a time over the phone.
Yep.
And it was dribbled out. And she said, well, I can get somebody to do it for X percent. And I said, that's great. Go ahead. I said, but before you do that, would you like me to look up in the MLS how often their prices drop? I will take that extra step and I'll go and I'll see how many of them listed at 250 but sold at the 199 or 185, because a lot of discount brokers will tell you whatever price you want and then their prices drop like stones. And what their list to sell price ratio is tremendously different.
I think that's a critical number to have in your arsenal. Is to really know that, like with us, my list price to sale price ratio is 99%. So basically what that means is that if you list with me, you can expect that your home is going to sell within 1% of what I've listed it for. Our market's average is 91%.
And
So
the discount brokers are in the 70s%.
even lower than that.
Yeah,
Yes.
and some are even lower than that.
So
So they're
critical
very
knowledge,
different
yeah.
numbers, and you can look it all up. It's all available. Sometimes you have to do a little math, but you can check out their listings for the last year
Mhm.
and do the math. It's worth your time.
Absolutely. Agree 100%.
Excel is my best friend. I love Excel. I use Excel for everything, so I'll put it all in there and I'll let Excel do the math for me because I don't trust myself with a calculator. But I trust Excel. So
Maggie,
that's one.
I'm a chemist by training.
Ah.
And I said that has given me the best background to sell real estate on the planet because I am so hyper analytical that I love numbers and I love data. And you as new real estate agents really jump right into that data element of your market so that you sound like you know what you're doing right off the bat.
And I totally agree with Jay on his listing presentation. The CMA, the comparative market analysis, is not the main feature. One of the things that I kept writing it in the chat, his personal value statement, the value to the customer, that's what he kept talking about. This is what I bring to the table. This is what my company brings to the table. This is what I bring to the table. This is what my company brings to the table. Because
Over and
they're
over
not
again.
hiring you for money, they're hiring you as a person.
Yep.
And they're hiring your company for their reputation. So that combination is just, it's so strong. If you partner with that brand, but you have a personal value statement, that what are you going to do and what are you going to bring? That your listing presentation, that's why Jay's is so good. He constantly comes back to that. Jen?
Well, and that's why I like that the gentleman that came before me, Maggie.
Yeah, Kyle,
his pitch, I came in right when he was like pitching his differences. He did it beautifully. He's like, I'm a geek. I'm a drone pilot. I am going to give you drone footage. I'm going to give you professional photography. He nailed his values, like what he offers to his clients right there on a sheet of paper. And I thought that was very important. Come up with what makes you tick that's different. Jen?
So Jay, tell us, how many times do you think you've done that listing presentation?
Okay, I've been in this business 14 years. Average of 100 deals a year, and I'm 60% listings. So figure, let's say 60 listings a year and then a 75% rate of winning them. So that's 85 listing presentations a year for the last 14 years.
Everybody, the name of the game is practice, 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 and then practice some more.
Practice,
So
practice.
It rolls right off your tongue like it is second nature, but that will never ever happen unless you practice it. So get a buddy, get another agent in your office.
Jen, what I find one of the hardest things that we got as new agents was that you weren't able to do things often enough. So it's like when you write your first contract, you're great because your broker's sitting right there with you. Well, then a month goes by and you don't write another contract. And all of a sudden somebody's expressed interest in buying and you're like, oh crap, I haven't done it in a month. With your listing presentation, develop it now, get our marketing department on developing your materials and start giving it to everybody. Give it to your mom, give it to your dad. When I got in this business, my mother was honestly so sick and tired of hearing me list her house that I thought she was going to kill me. But I told her, like, I did my listing presentation 15 times before I ever went off on a listing presentation. The people that at my first listing had no idea. My broker at the closing, she went to the closing with me, told me, Jay was so excited to have you for his first listing. These guys just looked at me like, we were your first listing and you didn't tell us? I was like, like they had no idea. They had no idea, but that was my goal.
And on my first listing, I told him my first listing. I said, I'm going to use that because I'm going to have time and no listing will ever be more important to me. So you can use it either way.
You had the energy and enthusiasm.
Either way. So it's what are you going to bring? Every listing presentation you do will be slightly different because every situation, every client, every house will be different. And you have to read the moment. And you may, and you will probably make mistakes. It's okay. I told you about the person I was mentoring, And she broke down in tears. She's sobbing in the middle of the listing presentation. And the seller said, she's like, it's okay, you just have Maggie, she'll do it for you, it'll be fine. And he said, no, I want you, I like you. Which is what we had tried to establish the rapport with her, which was what I wanted. And I didn't want him to list with me. And I was like, no, I said, I'm gonna be here to back her up. She's gonna list your house. And he's like, yeah, I love her, she's great. And she was, and she sold the house and she did a great and a fantastic job. She couldn't have done anything more wrong. And she still got it because what she did right was she built her rapport. She came across as completely genuine. And what he got from her crying was it mattered so much to her. And so he wanted a person that it mattered that much to. Does that make sense? She was mortified. If I talked to her about it today, she's still mortified, but so what? She got the listing. She made a friend for life. He would list with her again in a heartbeat, I guarantee you. So it doesn't matter. You don't have to be perfect. So a lot of realtors get ready. Don't wait, just get in there. And if you blow it, you blow it. And if you don't get it that first time, oh well, chalk it up, move on.
I think, Maggie, one of the most important lessons to learn as a realtor is the acceptance of no.
Yeah.
I mean, I always had thick skin. I'm the eldest of 5 boys. I've always had thick skin. As a realtor, I have developed hides of armor because a lot of people think we're trashy, for one. People don't recognize the importance of realtors in society. They count us out as low rent salesmen. And I have dealt with many doctors and lawyers, and they're considered the penultimate of what you can be as a Central New Yorker in our area. And I have a doctoral degree. I tell people, and I don't flash it. I don't ever tell people. However, when I get that challenge, I'm like, I'm Dr. Groh. Very nice to meet you. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh, you're a realtor? Yes. I chose this profession because I love helping people connect with beautiful homes. And I've lived every day with $212,000 in student loan debt that I just paid off last April after 10 years of $2,021 payments and living off ramen for a brief period of time. But I tell people, I got in this business because I loved it. And subsequently, the public doesn't get how important we are. We get how important we are. We connect people with housing. It's I think, one of the most critical jobs in the world. So
it is. When we drive the backbone of the economy, you're going to have people who have very low level of education who do great in this business. You're going to have people who have very, very high levels like Jay of education who do very, very well in this business. Your education isn't what's important. What you learn every day is important. How you treat people is important. How you learn your market and your business is what's important. And all of you have the potential to be successful, but there is only one person in charge of that destiny.
Preach. That could not have been said any better. Don't you dare, new agents, get out there and rely on anybody other than your own selves to mete out your success. You get out there. When I started in this business, I tell people, I come from a no-name family. My dad's a carpenter and my mother was a special education teacher in the New Hartford School District for 30 years. Okay. I was 21 years old. I was a fairly popular individual because I'm just likable. Other than that, I worked 70-hour to 100-hour work weeks for my first year in this business. And I did 3 million my first year, and I was unbelievably pumped about that. So you do what you can, but get out there and work. This business, you can directly correlate how hard you work and how many times you ask with how much success you make. If you are afraid to ask, get out of the business now.
I'm liking Kathy's smile over here. I'm looking at Kathy DeMacher, and she's just smiling at what you just said. It really is true. All of you have the potential to be successful at this. There couldn't be 3 more different people than Jay and me and Jen. Me and Jen and I in particular, because Jen is so classy and I'm just not. I wish I
Maggie,
was.
You and I might have some fairly similar
I
ways.
think we do. I think we might. Yes.
right.
And I
We're-
love
we're
that. So
over
we're
our-
over. I hope you guys learned from this. Jay, you were
allotted
everything I
time.
hoped for and more.
Yeah,
Good luck,
Jay,
everybody.
Thank you so much.
Maggie and Jen, put out my contact information to everybody.
We'll do that. So we'll see you guys
Well.
on Thursday morning at 9 o'clock.
Good luck, newbies.
Thanks, Jay.
Thanks,
you.
Jay.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. That was fun, wasn't it? That was a good day. Hope you guys had fun. I did. See you later.